just play Tony Hawk. You want to just do that instead? Oh God. All right. All right. I'll load up Shenmue 3 here.
Oh, well, I would say I won't say the beginning of the downfall. The Epic Game Store.
Yeah. So I mean,
Like,
yeah, that's the I guess the thing to mention quickly is that like yeah, of course it was advertised like yep, this is coming to Steam and obviously PS4, um, but then yeah, at the last minute or however long it was like nope, JK, we're putting this on the Epic Store, Steam.
I never kept because I don't play games on PC, so it was a non-thing for me.
Well, here's the thing that I think why a bunch of people on PC are a bunch of crybabies is because back in the days before Steam, if you wanted to play PC games, your entire desktop was filled with nothing but icons of like playing games. You know what I mean? Like there was never an issue of like how many icons do I have to load up a game? Like no, you just dealt with it. And
Yeah.
ever since Steam became the main thing, it was like, oh, everything's going to be on Steam, which, like, okay, that would be great. But then you have all these other stores, kind of like all the other streaming services coming out. It's like, yeah, no shit. Everyone's going to start doing this stuff now. And so when people, like, the legitimate arguments I heard for why they don't want to do it on Steam, on Epic Games is like, well, I got this other thing that I have to load up now and all this shit. And it's like, just shut the fuck up. Like, just it's like Jesus Christ. It's just another icon like anything else. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And the thing is, and once again, not to go on another tangent, but like, if you look into what Epic is trying to do, they're actually trying to be better than Steam in terms of how much money they give back to developers. And like, I have to commend them for that, to be honest.
Well, at one point I was gonna like make a post like, look guys, if you really want.
I think your audio dropped again.
Sorry, I keep cutting out.
That's okay. So what you're saying is you're going to make a post about what, sorry?
I was going to make a post saying, like, if you want Shenmue 4 to happen, the best bet is to buy it on Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get more money going to the developer.
Right.
But that was at the point where I'd given up on the place.
Yeah, and Tojo Anime says, why does the menu look like a Unity game? Because it basically is. Yeah, Newgrounds tier.
Honestly, like, the first 10 minutes of this game, you know how they say first impressions matter?
Right. This one obviously made a great one on you, clearly.
Right, this is like going to shake your girlfriend's father's hand and headbutting him by mistake.
Yeah, so, I mean, and that's, I guess, to get a little bit back into the pre-release of this game, a lot of people were concerned about, like, how the game was going to look, and then they were showing improvements, like, oh, don't worry, this is just alpha-level quality, and then, like, it came out, and this is what it looks like, and, like, okay,
Right.
like, okay, look, like, obviously, going from the Dreamcast in 2002 to this, it's gonna be different. And to be honest, I don't care that much about the graphics. Like, yeah, it's jarring at first because you, as fans of the game, you're expecting it to be like, oh, just a brief continuation. Like, yep, it's gonna look exactly the same. But like, no, like being real, of course it's not. But then you look at it, what it actually is, and it's like, yeah, it looks like a Unity game.
Well, here's what I don't get, is everyone was like, during all the trailers where they looked worse, like the faces and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was like, yeah, but it's in development, it's going to get better. Now, you and I both follow video games. What other video game has ever been advertised Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, where did I leave off?
So what other game has been advertised as what?
What other game has ever been advertised as the thing you've got ends up better than the trailers?
Right, it's always the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. So why should I, when I see the awful faces and stuff in the trailers and stuff with no emotions, I'm not trained to think, oh yeah, but it'd be better.
Right, history has shown us otherwise.
Yeah, like Ubisoft get raked through the mud for every time they announce a game. It looks a lot like 2 generations worse than
Right.
when you did it.
And yeah,
So when you show me a trailer, I'm not like, oh yeah, they get better. It's not like you get a trailer for the Avengers movies without the CG.
right, exactly. And I guess South has. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention the fact that not only did they say 6 months before release, they were saying it was still being like in like core development, I guess. But on top of that, they delayed it at least a couple of times, if I remember correctly. So, like, the fact
3 times?
at least I think, yeah. And the fact that, like, if this is what it looks like released, what the hell were they going to release from the original date?
Well, when they announced the Kickstarter says it's coming Christmas 2017.
Right.
And the game was announced summer 2015. And I said as soon as it was announced, there was no way they were making this game in 18 months.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
That is not happening. Everyone's like, well, if anyone can do it, Yu Suzuki can do it.
No.
Like, sorry, no.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I might have been wrong about the Kickstarter thing, but guess who was right about that?
1 point for me.
Yeah.
But even I don't know. It's so weird that, like, anyone would be naive to think a game of this scale and, like, this much hype could be done that quickly. It was bullshit.
Yeah, like, even smaller games struggle.
Right, exactly. And just, like, 2D, like, indie games, like, take fucking, like, 4 years to make.
Yeah, because there's, like, a small team working on it. And also people had such a thing about the budget.
Right.
And I tried explaining to them, it's not like there's a desktop PC in EaseNet's offices that takes money like a vending machine, and the more money you put in, the better the graphics get.
Well, right, exactly. And as someone, like, for me, like, in my career, like, I'm in engineering, and I've dealt with project scheduling and budgets, and, like, just throwing resources and money at something isn't going to make it better. If more often than not, it just makes it worse. Like, you need...
It complicates matters.
Right, like, you need a central, like, vision, a very core idea, and a very, like, focused team. And someone... And a team that is willing to listen to criticism and feedback, but in a constructive way. Like, just shitting on someone isn't going to help either. But, like, it's clear that, especially as, like, now that we're getting into maybe discussing the gameplay a little bit more, because the first impressions obviously weren't great, but, like, you start playing it and you realize that the focus was kind of on the wrong things for what made the original so good. Like, okay, like, we obviously just started this game as I'm playing it now, and it's like, okay, I guess it's whatever, graphics look a little bit goofy, but, like, I can get over that. I've never been a person that goes like, oh, I have to have 4K, everything, like, holy shit. Like, no, I could play a 2D Minesweeper game, and if the story's good, like, great, I'm fine with that. Like, but as soon as you kind of get past this first, 20 minutes of nostalgia, you start to realize things are, like, falling apart a little bit.
On it?
Thanks, Sal. Tired of hearing the racism. Look, man, I just speak the truth.
At first I was troubled by the main menu.
Well, yeah.
And then that scene we just saw where it keeps cutting weirdly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
I was like, don't be like this the entire game. This is worse than Shenmue 1 and 2, like how it's cuts and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, don't be like this. And then I actually liked Bailu Village until it told me you're leaving Bailu Village.
Uh-huh.
Because I thought the game was ramping up. And I was like, okay, like, we're slowly getting back into things or whatever. And I got a bit of that old Shenmue feeling from it. And I was like, yeah, like, Bailu Village, it's pretty cool, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's time to leave. And I'm like, I feel like I just got here.
Right. It's very quick.
Why am I leaving? Like, I've been waiting to come to this village.
I've had my
for
ticket.
16, 17 years, and now you're saying it's okay. You learned how the bridge was built. You can go now. I didn't care how the bridge was built.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about this stupid ass bridge. Yeah.
Like, yes, a guy came along with like 7 people and walked over it, and everyone was very fascinated. Great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that naturally people want to see more about the story of these characters like Shenmue and Ryu. And yeah, obviously there's going to be periphery stories to kind of set the atmosphere and the universe of the greater story, but like ultimately you want to see what the hell is going on with these characters. Like that's why people care probably more than anything. And like the entire time you're in Bailu Village, you're like chopping wood and like you learn that your dad punched a tree 20 years ago or something, and it's like I just don't get it.
Well, Yu Suzuki very famously always says he doesn't play games.
Right.
And the pretentious crowd are like, oh, see, such an auteur, he doesn't play
Right.
games. And I'm like, yet again, I think it was Thief who said, you can't be a writer if you don't read books.
Right.
Like, one of my main issues with Shenmue 3 is there are so many things that developers figured out 10 to 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stamina system.
Yeah.
That, I can't believe that no one was in the development office testing this game and didn't say either this needs to deplete differently, a lot less, or we need to configure this.
It is such an annoyance in the game that I've never eaten more virtual garlic in my life to stay up to speed. Like, it's so dumb. Like, it's just dumb. And even if with games that do have stamina systems, like modern games, like this isn't a modern like mechanic that needed to be added into this game.
No, and it's so we talked about the budget. I think one of the issues is probably that the budget kept changing for this game.
Sure.
Because Yu Suzuki has said at the end that it cost 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, he had 6, 7.
Yeah.
That's a big change. No matter what you're trying to make, whether you're building a game, a house, whatever, that's a big difference on what you can do.
Right.
And if you're already, I think like a game where you're in the middle of making it as well, you have to change course.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I get that's tough, and that's probably why the 20 million didn't go as far as it should. But Control, the Remedy game, cost about 20 million.
Yeah.
Uncharted 2 cost about 20 million.
Oh.
Shenmue 3 was not a low budget game.
Mm-hmm.
People use that as an argument for why it is the way it is, and they think it's a defense, but all I hear is it's bad because of this reason.
Sure.
Right, but you're still admitting it's not good.
Right, exactly.
Right, I don't care how much, I don't care if that's your argument. The end result is it's still not good.
Exactly. Right. There's lots of
Right.
excuses. Mm-hmm.
I can make a chair out of wood I bought for $1 and it'll fall apart. The end result is that sharpened chair fell apart. No one cares I built it for $1 at that point.
Right.
They care that they're now on the floor.
Right, exactly. And it's like, it's such a hard thing to separate at times because it's like, you kind of want to take into account the journey of how something gets made, whether it's a movie or a book, or a game, obviously. And like, yeah, it's good to know, but at the end of the day, it's the final product that matters. Like, that is what people are going to see and experience, especially for people who don't follow the series. And for this series, especially for those who didn't play Shenmue 1 and 2, you plop in Shenmue 3 to a modern audience, and coming back to the mixed messaging of the community of like, what do they want? Do they want to appease to the old fans or get more new fans by getting all these 100% Metacritic ratings? And it's like, okay, you give this to a modern fan and they're going to go, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not something that I can enjoy playing.
So, like, also with the budget as well, everyone's like, oh, yeah, it was low budget. My issues with the game would have cost less if they made it the way I'm thinking.
Sure, right.
Like, why is it you can buy a fridge in a shop that you can't use? Why can you buy all this stuff in all these shops?
Mm-hmm.
Why was development time put into that? The stamina system.
Yeah.
They wasted money on making that when no one wanted it and it was a mess.
Yeah.
You know, the voice acting. No one liked the voice acting. But the Shenmue community convinced themselves that suddenly Corey Marshall was the best voice actor ever. I'm not having a go at the guy. I'm sure he's lovely.
Right.
And I know he's not the issue with the voice acting.
Yeah.
It's the direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? But they convinced themselves that Shenmue 1 and 2 was some masterpiece in voice acting, which it never was, and that's partly why it became a meme.
Right, exactly.
Right? And when they were bringing him back, I had no issue with that, because I was like, fine, like, I knew he wasn't the issue. We've heard about how it was all recorded, things like that. But then they recorded it the exact same way. Yet again, 10 to 15 years ago, people figured this out.
Well,
how you structure a conversation.
Well, not even just like that aspect, but like the literal audio quality almost was like. It comes back to like Yu Suzuki and maybe others on his team tried to capitalize on the quote-unquote charm of the original games, which once again, I think I said this earlier, my analogy is almost like with a B movie where like it's like The Room or like anything you see in Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they're like, it wasn't intended to be funny and the director didn't want it to be, but then because of how it came out, people gravitated towards it and loved it. Whether intentional or not, it became just funny or interesting to watch. But then with Shenmue 3, it seems like it was the same situation where they became self-aware and no longer that charm doesn't exist anymore.
Well, have you ever seen any of Tommy Wiseau's stuff after The Room?
I've tried and could not bother.
Right, but it's not good because he now knows that he's a joke.
Right.
And he tries to play into that a bit.
Right.
You know, like there's a charm to something where someone was trying really hard and it didn't quite work out, which I think's hard on Shenmue 1 and 2 because at the end of the day, I still like those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I can't pretend that they did everything perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. There was definitely faults in the game. Like, even when I still go back and play Shenmue 1 now, like when the HD collection came out and I played Shenmue 1 again, I was like, man, I fucking love these games still, but like, holy crap, I was still getting pissed off at certain aspects of the game of like, man, they should have just fixed this in the HD port or something.
Yeah, I just think that sort of... I also just don't believe that it's what he was going for. That I think at the end of the day, Yu Suzuki is a man who last made a game in 2002.
Right.
And he doesn't play games, so he doesn't know what they're like now.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know what people like, what they don't like. And the end result is you get something that it feels like he pretty much made it the day after Shenmue 2.
Yeah, and I think that gets very much confused because people are like, well, like, isn't that a good thing? It's just a continuation of the Dreamcast days. And it's like, if this game actually came out then, yeah, it'd probably be great.
Yeah.
But it's 2020.
Certain things like the stamina system and stuff, I don't think even back in 2004 or 5, if it had come out then, that would have gone down well.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that, because I can't think of any other game that had a stamina system like this.
Not
like every other one, you even look at like Yakuza and stuff, and their health meters and stuff are all in battle.
Right.
And there's certain things it affects in the when you're just walking around, but just running doesn't deplete it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I don't know. Like, I do want to be clear that, like, I think both of us and many other people have tried to like this game. Like, obviously, we wouldn't be fans of the series if we didn't want to try and like this game. And once again, coming back to my analogy of, like, Star Trek, like, I've tried to like certain aspects of that series that I'll just never like. That doesn't mean, once again, that I'll hate the rest of it. But I think, given the change in the community and this, like, reverence for Yu Suzuki like an infallible god, anytime then when all the stuff we're talking about now we started to try and talk about that, it was like, no, you're crazy, or you like, why are you saying that, how dare you? And it's like, it got to the point where you couldn't have a constructive argument about anything with this game, because it was like, no, you're just wrong. And it's like, I don't get it. Yeah.
We talked about internet culture and how it's changed. Trolling used to be
Right.
people poking fun at people. People now just say, oh, you're trolling the moment you disagree with them.
Right.
Or you're a hater, or you've got an agenda.
Yeah.
No, like, it's just I have a different opinion to you. Guess what? A lot of people do.
Right.
Watch any election, most of them are pretty 50-50. People don't agree, not everyone agrees with one side. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's the way the world works. And, like, I just saw South say, like, MMO Sims had, like, the stamina systems. I tell you what, the Sims, the original The Sims, had, like, you had to eat and things like that. It would not surprise me if that was, like, one of the big games that you looked at back when Shenmue 2 came out and was like, oh, I'd like to put that in Shenmue 3, and he just kept that idea.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things, once again, where, like, he probably had a team, and Yu Suzuki, once again, was this revered person, and for a lot of good reasons, for sure. It's not like he didn't earn it, but, like, he probably was proposing ideas, and, like, you even watched, like, the interviews with the team leading up to the game, or, like, as part of the Kickstarter. All of them kept saying, like, oh, I got into the industry because of him, or I even worked with him before, and I had to go back and help him with Shenmue 3. And it's like, okay, if you're already, like, that, like, invested in it, do you really think you're going to say no to that person anymore? And it's like, yeah, they probably had a bunch of yes men that, like, just didn't challenge him on anything.
Yeah, I think he's a great idea, man. Sort of like George Lucas.
Sure.
He just needs someone to rein him in.
Exactly.
And they spoke about Nagoshi said in interviews, like, before he made Super Monkey Ball and Yakuza, that he pretty much got thrown into the development of Shenmue to just make it, just get it out.
Right.
They needed someone to get in there and just get this thing out. And I think he needs more people like that. More people who can have a more modern sensibility when it comes to video games.
Right.
People who know a bit better about how things work. Like,
yeah.
It's silly things, like, you shouldn't have to have a conversation with this guy between every time.
Right.
And I know they're, like, quirky. We like the immersiveness of Shenmue and stuff like that. But gaming's changed. I know, like, people don't like it, and they scream and bury their head in the sand like an ostrich. But I hate to break it to you, you probably would get more enjoyment out of Shenmue 3 if it had some more modern sensibilities about it.
Right, and to your point,
tearing out its heart.
Right, and to your point earlier, that would allow them to focus less on that stupid crap and actually focus on other things to drive the whole series forward, which, I guess, to talk about the story a little bit, or lack thereof, I mean, that's kind of the problem with this game, is like, okay, you start off now, you're got out of the cave, and you're trying to see what's going on next, and then, like, the only other time you really get any story is basically the final hour of the game, if that. Like,
so I've seen this argument, like, oh, like, you get as much story as you do in the other games. No, you don't.
No.
You don't. Nothing happens in this game. Nothing happens. a mirror gets thrown through a window, and that's about it. like, also as well, it's like they. Is it Neo-san? Neo-san? The lady?
Oh yeah, now son, yeah, exactly.
Neo-san,
Mm-hmm.
right. She's revealed as like this big reveal, right?
Right.
Guess what? If you weren't on the Shenmue forums for the last 10 years, you have no idea who that is.
Right, exactly, because it was
Why is it...
you had to follow that lore and that like understanding of where this could have gone back then. So yeah, it meant a lot to those people, but yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know who she is.
But that's a good point. Like,
yeah, I've seen fan art of her and things like that, and like the concept art from the original game,
right,
and things like that. But she was always this mysterious woman who we'll meet in like the future games.
mm-hmm.
And then yeah, we see her. But I don't know who she is still.
Sure.
I don't know anything about her. But it's sort of revealed as like, you've been waiting to see her. Yeah, I have. Can you tell me something?
Yeah, like who is she?
Yeah, like I don't know, it's like your delivery man turning up without any of the food. Like, you've been waiting to see me, haven't you? Yeah, where's the food?
Right. Yeah, it's. I don't know. It just seems like they. It almost seems like they. So going back to, I guess, kind of the reception, I suppose, and this is more of a recent thing, is the one video that Super Eye Patch Wolf did, which I love that dude's channel for lots of different videos, but he did a review.
I never knew him, but I love that video.
Yeah.
He summed it up great.
Yeah, exactly. I think he summed it up perfectly towards the end, where he said that Shenmue 3 doesn't feel like a sequel to Shenmue 2, but it feels like a prequel to Shenmue 4. And which I thought was a great way of putting it, because it almost... And the other way I kind of compared it was, this seems like the ground zeros to Phantom Pain of Metal Gear Solid, where, like, it's kind of like this is almost a tech demo of bringing this game into the modern era, which I guess isn't a bad thing per se, but then it's like, okay, what are you going to do next? Like, you got to carry it forward now, and it just seems like they missed the mark from that perspective.
It becomes an issue when you're charging people $60 for it.
Well, that too, right.
Which they never did in the first place, because it was on sale for like $30 2 weeks before it came out.
Right.
The sales were looking so bad. But all the Shenmue fans were like, this can only be good news, because nothing bad ever happens when it comes to Shenmue. It's frustrating. I look at it and it feels like Yu Suzuki. I told you earlier, like, he looked at like an arcade machine and not the game that's being played in it.
Right.
And I feel like he was like, let's build a world. Like, they don't make in modern games now, which I don't blame. And he did it, and then it felt like he had to find stuff to put in it. Like, the story feels very second full. It feels like the world was built first. The mini games, the shops,
right,
and then they fit the story in afterwards.
Yeah, kind of like
which
a hollow. Exactly, and yeah, it's very like a hollow shell. It seems like yeah, there's things there, but do they really matter?
So, I talked earlier about how like Kowloon was probably one of my favourite parts of the series, because it's just non-stop stuff's happening all the time. And it don't need to be big action scenes or things that are hard to make and stuff. Just the conversation in the room where you learn more about the mirrors.
Yeah.
That's not intense, that doesn't require a lot of gameplay. It's a lot of exposition. But it moves the story forward a lot. And that one conversation they have at the end of Shenmue 2 in Brent's Hideout moves the story forward more than the entirety of this game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, 100% right. It's like, even when you go to the next city after this, to, what's it called? Nauru, or whatever it's called. Like, I would have expected, like, okay, now we're going to keep pushing the story forward, and it's like, okay, Ren shows up for a little bit, and then, like,
Yeah, but that was just fan service at the end.
Pretty much, yeah. And then like,
I'm convinced that he wouldn't have been there if they'd made Shenmue 3 in 2004 or 2005.
right, exactly, because he literally just like shows up out of nowhere, and then obviously given like we've mentioned the awkward conversations, he just like goes up to Rio, and he's just like, oh hey, like,
Well, they don't seem to be friends either, which is weird.
right. It's like they never.
Which, by the end of Shenmue 2, like, you hate Ren at the beginning and then love him. Like, there's development there.
Yeah, it was just very weird. And South is saying, yeah, the reaction to that video was very amazing. Which, yeah, people lost their shit when that video came out, saying like just trolling or all this stuff, and it's like it's just another reason for people like not taking criticism, just at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really think the worst thing that happened was that Yu Suzuki and EaseNet took. Well, I said before, when they announced the Kickstarter, the worst thing they could do is listen to the fan community. That's the worst thing you can do.
Right.
A fan community is not going to give you constructive criticism.
Right.
You need to look for constructive criticism, not constructive praise, criticism.
Yeah.
So that's how you improve. And people straight away were like, forklifts, and oh, and this and that, and then he ends up making something where he focuses it more on that pointless stuff. Like, forklifts weren't a thing that anyone was expecting or needed in Shenmue 3.
Right.
I did it once, and I was like, okay, guess that's there.
Right. Well,
Like,
even in Shenmue 2, like if I remember correctly,
there's no
yeah, there's no forklifts. I mean, there's other stuff, but yeah, like it doesn't. And even when they did implement it here later in this game, it's like you do it for like a minute, and it's like, okay, cool, I guess.
yeah, I don't think Yu Suzuki understands what people really loved about Shenmue.
Right.
I think because stuff that people will like meme and make fun of and things like that, I think he took that as the legitimate things they loved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoy the forklift sections in Shenmue 1.
Mm-hmm.
Call me boring, but
Yeah.
I enjoy them.
Yeah, they're fun.
But I know the majority of people that fell off and didn't like Shenmue. That was one of their main criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
The whole it's a forklift simulator.
Right. Yeah, it's...
Maybe don't bring that back.
Yeah. Yeah, to South's point, they should have just worked on a more fleshed out new job to do. And like in this game, yeah, you're like chopping some wood and doing like herb picking, I guess, which is fine. Whatever. Kind of gets boring. And
Herb picking I didn't like, but like the chopping wood, like it's fine having it. I had nothing against it, but when literally every corner has a store to chop wood on.
it's like, is this really like the economy of jobs here? Is that? I mean, I guess you're in the middle of a forest, I suppose, but.
But like to the point what I made, where it feels like they made the world and then just filled it with crap, like the gambling.
Yeah.
There's gambling everywhere, and to the point where it seems like they're trying to force you to do it just to kill time. I was never big on the gambling in the Shenmue games. I did it to like make money here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like that's one of the main things they want you to do in this game.
Exactly. It's just not great. And here's also another perfect example of like, okay, I walked up on these little steps, and it played a cutscene, and that took time out, and then now I'm stepping back down, it's playing another cutscene, which is like breaking up crap even more, and it's like, maybe the first time to do that, cool. I don't need to see this cutscene every freaking time.
Right, but other games would make that an animation,
Right.
not something that cuts away.
Yeah, it's just very weird.
Yeah, like it just feels very, very like PS2,
Right.
Xbox generation.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like, as he said, he wanted to kind of continue that feel, but like did so in a very not great way.
You can do it if the things that I would want them to improve upon, I don't think would make Shenmue lose the feeling of Shenmue.
Right.
I still want it to be that you're like being a little, like your own detective in like a small town or a big town, and you're getting on this big adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You get in street fights. You know, you can go gambling. You can do this. You can do that. But it's not to amp up all the stuff that was only on the side up to 11.
Right.
Like, I never trained my moves in Shenmue 1 or 2.
Yeah, same here.
I didn't really care to just press X and right in a car park for 2 hours. Just so it was slightly stronger over fights that I could beat anyway. But here, it makes you grind, and I think the main reason is just because there's nothing much else to do.
Right, and then of course the excuses came in for why that's there, of like, oh, Ryu is going through this part of the journey where he needs to train up again because he's going for the next battle, or some stupid bullshit excuse, and it's like, no, it just, this entire game seems like a step backwards in and I'm not talking in terms of game mechanics even, I'm talking just in terms of a story and like what he's able to achieve. Like he fucking like destroyed all these people in Shenmue 2 with like all these different moves.
It took down an entire organization.
Right, and it's...
And then like a guy wearing a bandana in a village like kicks his ass and is like, come back tomorrow, kid.
Right, exactly, and it's like, how is that possible? That makes no story sense whatsoever. And so, yeah, like, I just struggle, like, I don't regret that this game came out, per se. Like, I'm glad...
I do.
I don't know, it's hard, because, like, on one hand, I'm glad he could do something else, but, like, at the same time... Yeah, like, it's clear that he's lost what makes it special, and it's also, I don't know, maybe this is premature to say, but, like, it doesn't seem like he or his team are willing to accept that criticism. Like, if they announce, and we'll get into the future in just a minute, but, like, if they come out with Shenmue 4 and go, like, look, guys, we heard you, we want to make this better, then great, I can't wait for that to happen, but, like, if it's more of the same stuff, then, like, I think I'm done.
So when it was first announced, I remember reading all the issues about it, and like, I think it was Adam Boyes from Sony saying like, oh, you know, like, it's going to be a cheaper game, but like, you know, it's either this or we had to like argue at Sony to fund it for another 5 years. And I was like, I would have rather you done that. I would have rather a big corporation like Sony was overseeing it, keeping it to a tighter schedule, a tighter budget, not necessarily a smaller budget, but like tighter as in don't let it balloon so much.
Right.
And just oversee it and make sure that a quality product comes out of it. I would rather a good Shenmue 3 5 years late, and I got called names for that.
Well, right,
especially 2015 when I said that.
Right, well, especially because, like, we've already waited, like, fucking 17 years already. Like, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, so I'm pretty sure I could have waited for that one. But, like, yeah, exactly. I'm definitely more of a quality over quickness, I guess, type of mentality as well. So, yeah, if they would have just said, hey, we're delaying it more, I would have been like, yeah, that sucks, obviously. But if it's going to give us a better product, then why...
I mean, it's tough once you announce a game, because then the longer it gets delayed, it can become a joke.
Right, exactly.
I would have preferred that they didn't announce it in 2020 and we got a good game.
Right.
You know, that's what I would have preferred. But, I mean, it's out now.
Here it is.
No taking backsies.
Yeah, and then since it's launched, I guess, obviously so the other thing to mention there were some included Kickstarter benefits, like you could call the people from Shenmue 1, which had different voices for the people, and it was just, like, yeah, it was cool, nice little throw-in for fans, I guess, like, alright, that's fine.
They annoyed me, because they also were acting different to how they acted in the first game.
Exactly.
You had characters who clearly just, like... I think it feels like Yu Suzuki never went back and played the first two.
Yeah, probably not.
which he should have. Like, if I get hired on one day to make Star Wars Episode 10, you can guarantee I'm going to go watch the other 9 first before I put pen to paper.
Right, exactly.
You know, like, it's how these things work. Like you call like Goro and people like that. They just have a completely different personality to what they used to have.
Yeah, it's like they all had amnesia.
Like Joy as well was like, why aren't you taking me out on a date? And it's just like, she was never that.
Right.
The joke is always every woman fancies Rio.
Yeah.
She was never that forward. She was flirty and things like that. But I'm sorry, when were they planning to go on a date? Did I miss that part?
Yeah, like she practically ran him over with a motorcycle. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't think that's. Cool.
If I took every woman that had done that to me.
Oh god. Yeah, and then obviously afterwards they released the downloadable content packs, which I got. Like I got the first one was like it was like a running game or whatever, or whatever you want to call it.
So, here's something that I think is depressing and sums it up. Is my brother, as I said, is the one who first bought Shenmue.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, when I text him about video games still here and there. He plays them occasionally, like he plays the Final Fantasy VII Remake and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, "Should I get Shenmue 3 once I beat it?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said no.
Mm-hmm.
Because my brother is terminal.
Yeah.
With cancer. He hasn't got long left.
Sure.
I didn't want him to waste his time.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot when people call me a hater of the game, say I want it to fail. But when I'm literally saying that I don't want my brother, who hasn't got time left, to have a miserable time with this game, I think that kind of sums up how I feel about it, not me having an agenda.
Right. Well, and once again, I've talked to friends, some of which who over the years, like after high school, who I found out also like had the Dreamcast or even may have played the first Shenmue games and also liked them. Probably not to the amount that I did, but you know, were at least familiar with them, and they knew for the longest time that I was hyped for Shenmue 3, like my entire like fucking adult life. And then I started playing it, and like they didn't back the Kickstarter or anything like that, and then they were asking like, man, like now that you played it, like obviously like it must have been great, like you've been waiting so long, like do you recommend playing this? And I flat out told them the same thing. I'm like, honestly, no, like don't play this game. Like it was. And to be honest, here's the other thing that I got shit for as well on the forums, and that's right around after I started posting, right before I stopped posting, I should say. So when I first beat the game, I posted that like, yep, beat Shenmue 3, like had a pretty good time, and then obviously the post like got thumbs up and stuff. But then about a week later, I went back and was like, well, shit, I kind of want to play it again and see. Now that the nostalgia has worn off, do I feel the same way? And immediately, like I'm at like the point that I'm at right now on stream was when I was like, I don't think I liked this game. Because like I was fueled by 18 years of nostalgia and anticipation and like the shortcomings of what I was seeing being overshadowed by that. And so when I finally beat it and then started again, I was like, this is not good.
Well, I as I said earlier, I really enjoyed when I was playing Bailu until it told me I was leaving Bailu. Because I was convinced the game was ramping up.
Right.
And then the moment I found out I wasn't, I was like, well, that sucked. And I think it was before that, there was a few things that made me feel like I was playing a Shenmue game again.
Sure.
And it was nostalgia. That's all it was. It was nostalgia. It was making
me...
And I was telling myself in my head, like, oh, this is great, isn't it? I weren't actually feeling it was great.
Right, I was telling myself.
I was telling myself it was great. And then once I got to the Naiwu, and there's just gambling shops everywhere, shops with nothing in them
Right.
that you use. You're doing the same thing again, you're just looking for a gang the entire time. People say the story moves forward, it doesn't. All you do is look for a gang.
Right.
The entire time, which, yes, you do in the first game, but guess what? While you're finding the gang, you're finding out other information as well.
Right, it's like a whole world is being built in this small community, or even in Shenmue 2. Like, it's still, even though it's a big place, you're seeing how the connections are being made with the different people, and there's a history there. But like, yeah, it just
you're getting involved in a conflict between two gangs in Shenmue 2.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, you get in the middle of this war, which ultimately you don't care about, but you have to get involved in it between these two rival gangs.
Right, and
Whereas
like
Shenmue 3 isn't that, it's just they call themselves a gang, but I think the worst thing they do is they push a table over and yell.
fucking.
And everyone's scared of them. Like,
All right, lethal injection. They have to die now. How dare they? Like, yeah, and it's and once again, just to be clear, and kind of getting into the comparisons between, 1 and 2, I almost consider like one thing basically. So between that era and this, of Shenmue 3 is like, I think with Shenmue 3, it's trying to be a more personal story and not be this like grand adventure per se, which is fine, like awesome. Like I would love to see that, but they didn't do that. It was, to your point, like a dude in a bandana flipping a table and you eating garlic every 3 seconds, and it's like, well, what is this? Like, I don't. It's. Yeah, and so, but anyways, going back to when I originally said I liked the game, and then I made a post like a week later basically saying like, hey guys, like, you know what, I don't really like this game anymore. And then of course I got called out like, oh, like, and they were like, they quoted me saying, oh, you really like this game, had a good time. And it's like, welcome to A, being a fucking adult and changing your opinions, and B, nostalgia wearing off. Like, I'm taking off the fucking goggles here and like saying with constructively, like, here's why I didn't like it. And then to your point as well, that's when I got banned not too long after for calling someone a douche or something. I don't know why I got banned. Like, I don't even remember anymore. And then after that 1 week, I got banned for a week. I came back, changed my avatar to the Heaven's Gate leader, and started praising somebody, and then I just left because I was like, this is pointless.
yeah. Here's what I'll say about what's acceptable and what's not. That website promotes people who have said that trans people are mentally ill because their video says
Right.
Shenmue 3 is great.
Yeah.
A mod said that black people in Japan are an issue.
Yep.
But he's okay because he likes Shenmue 3.
Yeah, clearly, it's fine. It's fine.
I said, someone said that they think the the face work might not be great in Shenmue 3 because they were shipping it out to a company in India who are known for doing worse work for cheaper.
Sure.
It was called racist.
Yeah.
You know, that you can't have it one way and not the other.
Right.
You know, like someone's got a concern about the quality of work coming out. Doesn't make them racist.
Right. Like, you're trying to have the conversation and especially tell the truths about it, and they're just unwilling to hear it. But South does have a good point. I can tell Shenhua about my day during the evening, so that kind of makes up for everything. I totally get it.
But also as well, like, everyone always tries to say, yeah, but the game's about Ryo and Shenhua. Their relationship does not build in this game. The relationship built more in the entire walk to the village in the end of Shenmue 2.
Right.
They built more of a connection and a bond in that game than they do in the entirety of this one.
Right, like, this game, you're like, well, I could say this.
She's there. You talk to her of an evening. You don't talk to her well. You're like, she's like, Ryo, yeah. Be careful. Okay.
Yeah, and
Like, oh, great character development.
well, and it's like, and once again, I think it comes back to that video that I was mentioning earlier, but like, or maybe he said, or I don't remember, but basically, it seems like the characters, it's like two characters are talking at each other in different directions as opposed to having a conversation, and that's the hard part too. Is like, great, Shenhua and Ryu are talking, but they're not talking with each other at all.
You ever been in a room when two people are on the phone at the same time? And they're having two different conversations.
Yeah,
exactly. They're not responding to what the other person's saying.
Right. They're just like physically there.
Yeah. It feels like they've gotten to just film a load of record a load of random lines.
Yeah.
And then just threw together what they could and make it work. Like, maybe Yu Suzuki changed his mind on what he wanted that conversation to be, but rather than like re-record it,
right?
They just were like, well, we got this one, we'll put that there instead.
Just copy and paste somewhere. Yeah. Or the Cliff Martin poster where Ryu has a conversation with someone who isn't even there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Shenmue's 1 and 2's conversations and voice acting weren't great, but there's more of an excuse when that game was made in 2001.
Yeah, exactly, and that once again comes back to the point of like, this isn't 2002 anymore, and even if you want that kind of game again, the fact that the community kept saying we need to get this to be more accepted is in complete conflict with that statement, or that sentiment, I guess, and especially with the bullshit they're doing of like inflating user scores on every review website, of giving it 100% and then saying that a 68 or whatever was a complete success when every other game on Metacritic at that score are usually like failures.
Well, no, 69's considered mediocre.
Oh, that's what it is.
And 68's considered good, so therefore it's a good game because it got 68.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah, my sincere apologies for misrepresenting.
I mean, that's like celebrating you got through college with a D because you got out.
D's for degrees. It counts.
And in Tommy Boy, where he's happy he got through college in 8 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's proud he got through college.
I did it, guys.
Yeah. But the thing as well is, like, yes, the conversations were bad in the original Shenmue 1 and 2 as well, but they even got worse in this.
Yeah,
the voice acting's bad in the first one, but at least it's a functional conversation.
Right, you get
for the most part.
Right, you get something out of it. I know when you're talking to like the people who own like the shops and stuff, it maybe isn't a natural back and forth. But like I said earlier, Ren's Hideout, where you learn about the mirrors. Right.
That's a conversation. You don't really get many of them in this. You just get characters talking to the other one. There's no back and forth.
Right.
Even at the end of the game, she's just like, Landy is upstairs. There's no, what is Landy doing here?
Yeah, why is he even here?
Yeah, what is Landy doing here? Like, oh, he's come for the mirrors. He knows I have the mirror. Like, you know, like...
It almost like, if this were to come out once again back in the day, it almost seems like Landy shouldn't have even been in this game.
No. Or it would have been something like similar to Shenmue 2.
Right, where he's like always looming in the background a little bit, but not like you don't actually confront him.
Yeah. No, I think if this game was made, it's ridiculous, but I think this would have been a better made game with inferior technology back in 2004.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, and I know people are always like, I would love it if it had the Dreamcast graphics still, and like, yeah, that'd be cool and stuff, but like, it's not just the graphics I care about.
Yeah, it's just very disjointed, and it, like, once again, I'm trying to be as fair as I can, but to your point earlier, even with the modern graphics, to your point, that certain mechanics just didn't need to be in this game, and if they would have focused on story, I would have been happy. Like, yep, great, would have been fine.
You know what? Like, I'm not a game designer. I don't know how games are made and
Sure.
things like that. I wouldn't even pretend to know. But if they'd sat me down 6 months before release and said, "Can you play this and give us your thoughts?" I feel like I would have turned around and gone, "Well, you get rid of that, you get rid of that, you get rid of that, and I think you'll get an extra point on every review."
Yeah.
And it's not even saying add this, and then an epic fight here and stuff. I'm saying get rid of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff that you didn't need to put in there in the first place. We were talking once about what mods we would like to see.
Right.
And most of my mods are just remove things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to see like the Sega capsule toys back and things like that. But yeah, it's not as fun collecting fire hydrants, but I know that's not realistic maybe to expect Sega's things in there, given the current situation. But get rid of the stamina system. Get rid of all the shops with all the pointless items.
Yep.
Keep the shops there. Keep the shopkeepers there. Maybe have them sell items that you can actually use or something. I don't know, but like, the game could have been a lot better with a lot less.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want to keep that money, put it towards the story. Put it towards improving the scenes and stuff like that. The conversations.
Yeah, and even if they kept everything in the game that they did, the fact that regardless of what you care about the mechanics, the fact that, once again, there's just essentially no story up until the last 20 minutes, maybe, of the game, if that, is like, it just seems like, what's the point?
I mean, like, if me and you sat down and we had to explain the story of Shenmue to someone who's never played it, so they can play Shenmue 4. And we did bullet points. 90% of it would be Shenmue 1 and 2.
Right. I mean, I hesitate to even say if there would be a single bullet point of Shenmue 3 other than it existed.
I mean, he doesn't have the mirror.
Yeah, the mirror went out the window.
Well, no, that was the fake one.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, he gave it to the lady at the end who we don't know why we should care about her.
Right.
Who, for some reason, decided to deceive him for like 2 weeks for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, just for fun. Why not?
Yeah, I'm just gonna wear different clothes, dye my hair, speak to this guy outside a boat, in no way point him in the direction I want him to, and just hope he ends up where I want him.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, and
Master planner.
Yeah, like, once again, as far as kind of what's next, well, actually, before getting into that, but as far as moving forward, I guess the other thing to mention now really quick, as far as this game, is the DLC. So, yeah, like I said, they came out with DLC, and yeah, they had some running mini game, then they had casino nights.
I didn't bother with any of them.
Like, I tried it and just stopped. I was like, this is pointless.
Even the story one, I realised that it wasn't really like any story, just a side thing, and I was like, no, it's fine.
Right, if there would have been post end of game stuff, like, okay, great, that would have been interesting, but there really isn't any of that.
Here's the thing before we leave the Shenmue 3 section. Why did they need the second village? Or town, sorry.
To say they
Why
did
didn't
something.
they take the money they developed on that and really expand the first one?
Because they wanted to show that they can do more than one thing.
But that's it, I just feel like it was Yu Suzuki sitting there like, wouldn't it be great if there was a town? And it had like the night, when you go there at night, the lights come on. Yeah, it's a nice idea, but we're trying to make a game we can sell here. Like,
go back to the corner of the room. Get out of here.
Yeah. Here's your tape recorder. Go talk into that. Okay? But what, like, I was expecting when they announced it, like, even in the years leading up to like Shenmue 3, where there was no news and we just got little pockets of information.
Right.
I thought the majority of the game, or all of it, was going to be set, at least for Shenmue 3, was going to be set in Badu Village.
Yeah, exactly.
Which also shocked me with how soon we left it.
Right.
Because it kept expanding as well. Like, you kept opening up new areas.
Yeah, and I think it seems like there could have been a lot more lore for this area that was actually important, especially like with Ryu's dad. For like, why did he, like, what did he come to this area? Like, why was it important? But then, yeah, they kind of just like were like, well, see ya, on to the next place.
Well, like one of the things like in the first two games is like Rio doesn't really know who his dad is. He finds out.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thinks he knows, and I always find that a sort of funny thing. Like I don't know if you've ever talked to like your dad's old friends who tell you stories about your dad, and you're like, what?
Yeah, what the
like,
fuck? Yeah.
Like no, like that's not my dad. Like you know, like
Right.
I was excited for stuff like that when you come across the old master is like, oh, I knew your father and stuff. I was like, oh, right, we're gonna learn more about him. He's like, you punch that tree over there, bye.
Cool.
You're like, okay, like why did he punch the tree?
Seems
Well,
interesting.
like he seems to leave this big impact on this village that and you never knew about it.
Right.
I was like looking forward to like you talk to all the old people in the village and they're like, you know, like oh you're from Japan. I knew someone from Japan once. Iowa. And you're like, whoa, that's my dad. You're his son. Like you know that would have been awesome.
Yeah, like exactly. Just more world building and lore, but just nothing. Yeah.
No, instead we get, huh?
Go chase these chickens.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm busy right now.
Yeah. Go bring me some buns and sake. You little shit.
Which, yet again, like, that could have been awesome. The guy who won't teach you a move for days.
Right.
And he's just... but they did not do it well.
Yeah, it just became annoying.
It's just there to waste time.
Right.
You should have been given stuff to do in between. So, like, in Shenmue 2, when he's after the wooden shoe, and he's carrying the books, you still have things to do during the day.
Right.
When you're not carrying books. The story is still moving forward. There is still stuff to do.
Yeah, exactly. And
you're carrying books for a reason.
Yeah, and it felt like there was definitely stretches of this game where for literal in-game days, I was either just doing nothing but chopping wood or chasing chickens or like just grinding, which this just isn't that type of game. Like it's just not. Like if you like grinding in those types of games, like either Final Fantasy or Persona or whatever, like great, those are what those games are for. But this is not that type of game, and it just annoyed the hell out of me.
Well, training was always an option. It wasn't a necessity.
Right.
Shenmue was always about giving you the option to do stuff, not forcing you to. And that's where Shenmue 3 changed.
Right.
Because they needed to pad it out. Because he built this world, and he realized he didn't have much to fill it with other than the mini games.
Right. Yeah. And South was saying
because at the end.
Yeah, he's saying he grinded more in Shenmue 3 than most games.
Yeah, I grinded more in Shenmue 3 than I do in Persona.
Mm-hmm.
But like, at the end of the day, he's an arcade game maker, and you can feel that with the mini games as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's more about those like quick 5-minute, if that, little games.
Right.
I don't think he thinks as much long term. What is this experience going to be like for someone who plays it for 2 or 3 hours? Not even someone who burns through the story that takes the time with it. What are they doing in those 2 to 3 hours?
Right, exactly. It's just like, in this game, it just seems like you're hopping from one thing to the next, but I'm not really sure why.
Yeah.
And so, as far as this game goes, yeah, I mean, it ended, and then you start walking up that, like, Great Wall of China or whatever, up to this castle, and then, like, it just ends. And I think my jaw dropped, to be honest. I was like, this can't be over.
Well, I'd read before I played it, like, people were saying the ending was weird. I didn't know how it ended.
Right.
But, like, I wasn't that shocked. And also at that point, the last area of the game really annoyed me, especially with that where you have to find the plates or the keys or something.
Right.
Like, why was that there?
Just
That's just a really weird part. Like, there's nothing that builds up to it. This guy's just like, oh, I need this. And you're like, okay, well, I guess my friend's kidnapped, but I'll just, like, search through these cupboards.
yeah, life literally hangs in the balance, but sorry, I gotta find this other shit.
Yeah. And someone told me that, or I read somewhere, sorry, that was the extra side quest that they included in the Kickstarter.
Oh, thank God.
All I'm going to say is I wish we raised $1 million less and not had that.
Yeah, less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, I was just confused. And it's like... I kind of think about, once again, like I mentioned already, like I've played the first 2 Shenmue games more than really any game in my life. And even after playing Shenmue 3, I can see myself in another 5 to 10 years going back and playing them again, or sooner potentially if I really wanted to, because like those games, partly yes, it's the nostalgia thing, but also just because it's just they're kind of interesting. But with Shenmue 3, I literally don't think I'll ever come back and play this game unless I'm doing something like this. Like I just see no reason to play it.
Yeah, I in the lead up to Shenmue 3, I went back and replayed Shenmue 1 and 2 with the HD remakes.
Yeah.
Remasters. And if Shenmue 4 comes out ever, I am gonna play it. Like, I know I'm gonna play it.
Right, yeah. I'm in too deep at this point. I can't just not play it.
It's this weird, like, sort of obligation thing you feel about
right.
being part of the community for so long. It's like, I donated $300 to Shenmue 3.
Yeah.
So when people say I've got an agenda as well, it's like, trust me, if I gave that much money to everything I hate, I'd be very bankrupt.
Right. I mean, I gave $500, and like I said, I was fucking unemployed. So like, yeah.
I wanted to like this game, okay? Like, and I didn't. And that's more than I've ever spent on a game before, and probably ever will.
Exactly. Yep.
And I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I ever will play it again. Even if Shenmue 4 comes out, as I said, I'll play it. But I'm not going to play Shenmue 3 again to prepare myself. If that, I'd watch a YouTube video maybe of the last hour or so.
Right.
Like,
yeah, there's just...
I came away from Shenmue 3 a bit depressed.
Right, I remember you were telling me that. And I mean, yeah, I'm honestly not that different.
It's that feeling of, like, we talked about earlier, like, yes, I like Shenmue 1, and I wondered if I do like that game and stuff. I play Shenmue 3 and I'm like, do I like Shenmue? I think Super Eye Patch will like sum that feeling up really well when he's
right.
Do I like Shenmue? And I thought about it, like, yeah, I do. I
well, obviously.
Those 2 games. They are games I would recommend. I posted on a Shenmue forum for 10 years. Okay, like, it's a game that I really enjoyed, but Shenmue 3, I think it's tough because so many things about it are similar to the first 2 games.
Right.
So, and the things that annoy you are some of the elements of
right.
the first 2.
It makes you question, like, what was your liking of it all along?
Yeah. And I do think partly it was a time and place thing.
Exactly, yep.
And when you replay, it's nostalgia. Like, I don't have many friends who actually like play video games outside of stuff like Call of Duty or FIFA or NBA 2K.
Yeah.
I don't think, even if I have friends who were really into video games, I don't think I can recommend Shenmue in 2020 as like something they have to play. You know, like, you've got to play this.
Right.
Especially not Shenmue 3.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess the other thing I forgot to mention as well, while I'm scarfing down some garlic here,
can we also just talk about one of the mods of it was like when someone said one of the mods of the Dojo forum said when someone complained that you have to eat a lot of garlic, they're like, well, people eat a lot of garlic.
Yeah, I'm just
Well,
popping
honest-
garlic like fucking Tic Tacs here.
You know what? I was wrong. Great. It's actually a great system. You're correct.
Yep.
I was wrong.
You got me. You caught me in a loop.
Honestly, you know what a lot of people do as well? They go to the toilet. You know why? It's a bad game. Why doesn't Rio go to the toilet?
Why isn't he shitting himself every 5 minutes? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yeah, I do remember that argument. It's like literally nothing is gonna win this argument with them.
No. It's I've got to defend this like my life depends on it.
Right. Yu Suzuki is literally my father. I can't let him down.
He is my IOL.
But yeah, the other thing I guess I forgot to mention as well, and I've mentioned this on the other streams that we do for a while now, but Shenmue, I think the reason why Shenmue also means a lot to me is because it was one of the main reasons that got me to go to Japan. And like, I not only have been there multiple times over my life, and of course lived there for 6 months in Okinawa, but like, one of my trips to Japan was literally to go visit the location of Shenmue. Like, I have pictures that I've shown of Yokosuka and Dobuita and all those places, and it's like, once again, if I wasn't a fan of this game, why the fuck would I ever go there? And so, the whole argument of like, I'm not a real fan because I'm criticizing is complete horseshit. It doesn't make sense. Like, and so,
You're not a true fan.
Oh, so yeah, my apologies. I'm not a level 3 tier fan. I'm only just a plebeian level 1 fan who spent money to literally travel halfway across the globe to go to where it takes place.
I mean, who hasn't done that?
I mean, honestly, yes, come on. So, like, once again, I think that's why not just 1 and 2, but 1 specifically, I think it means so much to me, is because it was that initial, drug that got me into, like, learning more about the country, and like I said, eventually going there. And nothing will ever top that. Even if Shenmue 4 comes out and it's fucking IGN 10 out of 10 masterpiece, nothing will ever top Shenmue 1 for me, from that perspective. So, like, that's why I have to, like, check myself every once in a while, but given everything we've talked about, like, Shenmue 3 just on it, as its own entity, is just not great.
Well, when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, Final Fantasy VII is my favourite game.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but about halfway, I was like, this is a better game than Final Fantasy VII.
Sure.
Like, the gameplay's more modern and works better, like, makes more sense. The story's expanded, not necessarily in a bad way either. I'm like, so does that make this game my favourite? Or like, the game I like the most?
Right.
But no, I still like the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, exactly.
Nostalgia plays a part.
Right. Yeah, and once again, like, to kind of compare it to Star Trek again, and I guess you could do the same thing with Star Wars a little bit, like, there's a particular Star Trek series that came out in the 90s called Deep Space Nine that it'll always be my favorite, and I love that one to death. But, like, the new Star Trek series and movies that have come out, like, I'll tell you, they're not my favorite, but I still enjoy watching them. And they're cool or whatever, and some of them, like I said, are less great than others. But then you have it's honestly funny, the parallels where I've seen in the Star Trek fandom, where people are like nonstop shitting all over the new ones because it doesn't have it's those same keywords. It doesn't have the charm of the original. It kind of misses the mark from what the original does, and it doesn't follow the same exact plot points as the original. It's like, okay, if you want the original, just go fucking watch the original at that point. Like, do you never expect anything to improve ever at that point?
There's no room for context.
Right.
And that's the issue, is like, I can say I don't like certain things about a game, and people read that as I don't like the game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And with the internet being all or nothing, either in your mind Shenmue's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. And you can only be on one side.
Right.
Like, is Shenmue 3 the worst game ever? No.
Right.
But people seem to think that if you have one bad thing to say about it, that's what you're making it out to be.
Right. We have to.
Here's something that's telling as well.
Mhm.
We speak with about 30 people, roughly, who used to post on the dojo forums for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Many of them have not beat the game.
Right. Exactly.
A game that they were on a forum dedicated to for 10 to 15 years. One member said he put it on, watched the opening cutscene, and turned it off. Like,
yeah, if that isn't telling.
Guess what? They've not got an agenda. They haven't. That's quite. I'd be worried for their mental well-being if they spent 15 years, made 10,000 posts, like, and their agenda was, oh, I'm going to destroy this. Like, the Shenmue community seems to think there's like some secret society
Right.
that meets and decides how they're going to attack Shenmue next.
Right. There's like a shadow organization of people. And it's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
They meet once a year at E3, unlit room, and they're like, right, how can we destroy it further this time and underachieve Yu Suzuki's achievements?
Yeah.
You know, like, well, we'll make sure we give it the low review scores. Good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this whole idea that the world's against them.
Mhm.
So strange.
Yeah.
So strange.
Very. So, I mean, I guess before getting into the future of Shenmue, kind of as one of the last things, more recently they announced the Shenmue Anime with Crunchyroll and Adult Swim, I guess.
Yeah, Crunchyroll and Adult Swim.
Yeah, and like, I'm also like a little conflicted because on one hand, like, cool, I guess.
Do you really care?
Not really.
No, that's it. I just really like they announced it, and I was like, wow, okay. I was not expecting it. I did not. I think after Shenmue 3, like that's not the franchise you make a series out of.
Right.
Like based on lesson, I could name 5 Sega properties that probably would be bigger and would have more of an audience to translate.
Right.
So it was a surprise. Was I confused? No. Not really.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said before, I love to watch anime. I'm a huge fan, and like anytime there's like tie-in stuff to things I'm already enjoying, like that's cool. But like, I with this, I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish, because if I'm understanding correctly, it's just a retelling of the first game, I guess. I don't know if it's the first and second game. I can't remember, honestly.
I think it's first and second. But here's the thing: is like it comes out next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to think they've been working on that probably for a year or two.
Right. Exactly.
Which means they were in discussions and signing contracts probably back when Shenmue 3 got announced and was the biggest Kickstarter ever.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is probably something that was before the sales of Shenmue 3 came out, was already in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure everyone thought like Shenmue was back that first month,
Pretty much.
you know. And as we know, it's not really. Like it is what it is. It's not going to be set in Call of Duty numbers.
Of course.
I remember one guy on the Dojo forum saying that it was a bigger deal than Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, my ass.
And that was the blinking guy gif.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I did. Like I literally did that for real.
Right. Like, you got to be shitting me here.
Yeah, like, are you that deluded? Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't like Call of Duty. I don't like Call of Duty, but I know it's a bigger game than Shenmue.
Yeah, of course, and it's fine. Whatever. It's a different audience.
Yeah, I just don't care. I'm gonna watch the anime. I've watched a few Studio Ghibli films and like Cowboy Bebop, which I'm not the biggest anime fan.
Yeah, and that's obviously totally fine too. Of course, not everyone is. It looks like we got a comment. Authentic Maniac. 3 truly doesn't hold up as the best. 1 and 2 enjoy more. Got to give credit to the art they put into work on 3. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, to be honest, I really don't have that much of a problem with the graphics of this game. Yeah, it looks a little weird and goofy, and like, yeah, the environments actually don't look too bad. So, Yeah, I'll give
I
you
actually,
that.
outside of like that muscle guy,
Mhm.
I think it looks like what I imagine in my head
Right,
5 years ago a modern Sega game would look like.
right.
You know, like I was more surprised I actually got it as close as what I expected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like South just said, it's the characters that win. Yeah, some of them look a bit like copy and pasty, like there was an asset they reused or
Right.
found. Like, but the environments and like the skies and things like that, like that. Sega are always good with their like blue skies.
Just getting
Yeah.
closer. Yes.
But for the anime, I'm gonna watch it because it's a Shenmue thing.
It's just morbid curiosity at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also that thing of like, I don't know if I am gonna watch it because it's on TV.
Right.
Who watches TV now?
Right. Like that thing better be on a streaming service, or else it's already fucked.
But I'm not an anime fan, so I don't have Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I'm an anime fan, and I don't even have Crunchyroll because like there's too much.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna pay like $6 a month. That's one of those things. I know like Crunchyroll got a thing with like HBO Max. If it ends up on there, yes, I'm gonna watch it.
Pirate
And
Bay.
I'll try to watch it on TV, but like, I can't guarantee that I'm gonna be there on a Tuesday at 11:30.
Right. Yeah, I definitely won't. I can say that with 100% certainty right now.
The anime seems like a nice idea, but I guarantee you that that contract did not get signed after November last
Right.
year when this game was released.
Exactly. So it's like they either are in too deep now, and they're like, well, we may as well finish it out. But like, yeah, I just don't understand what the end goal is, because if it's to get original fans excited, like, okay, cool, they probably will, but then I don't know what they're gonna do with it after the fact. But if the intent is to get new fans, they've already way past that point now. Like, that's a lost cause.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's joining the Shenmue hype train anymore.
Right.
You had your chance in 2015 and you blew it.
Yeah, like, sorry, like, yeah, it's not happening.
That's the reality of the matter. They could have got so many new people on board. They could have got people to try out the original games, and they dropped the ball.
Right.
The anime, I don't know. I think they honestly thought that it was going to be a big deal after the announcement of Shenmue 3, and that's when they signed the contract. And it's like, do you remember the Sonic Boom games?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the first one didn't sell well, but they still made a second one because they had a contract with Cartoon Network to release 2 games, and it would cost less money to make the game and have it be a failure than get out of the contract. And that's probably the case here.
Yeah, because and once again, it's another timing issue. Like just with the HD remasters, it's like they released it in such a weird time as well. So if they released,
that would have been great leading up to Shenmue 3.
Right, exactly. If they would, right. Mm-hmm.
You know what? You don't want to play the games? Here you go. Here's a 13-episode anime. This will catch you up, and then you'll be able to literally jump into Shenmue 3.
Right. It's like they're like retroactively trying to play catch up, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It also feels like they were probably doing that off to the side and had no, because like Yu Suzuki for ages said he had no idea if they were making 1 and 2 HD remasters. I just can't believe that people weren't talking to each other.
Right.
About what was going on.
Yeah. It's just another thing of like it just seems like a lot of mismanagement, a lot of bad communication, not being real with each other. Yeah, it's.
Well, I think you were told this as well. We know like the owners of the dojo forums were told the reason Deep Silver got involved in the game is because Sega went to them and asked them to get involved because they were worried about it.
Right.
Because Sega couldn't suddenly just stroll in and try and fix it after the Kickstarter and try and look like they weren't involved.
Yeah.
like, and they were like, please, can you
Just do something.
Yeah. Like, which isn't a good sign. Sega were more involved than people like to think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a little goofy, to be honest. So I guess really that kind of leads into basically the final part of, like, what would you want to see the future of this series? Because, like, even after the anime comes out, like, cool, that's going to be done. That's still nothing moving forward. Obviously, people are going to want the next game in some fashion, which I realistically don't think is going to happen. Like, yeah, they do have this engine now, which could be, like, the base. Like, they don't have to make a new engine and necessarily a bajillion new assets, because they could just start with this for Shenmue 4. But it's like, once again, if they don't take constructive criticism and show good faith, I guess, then I don't think, like, if they try and do another Kickstarter, there's no way in hell they're gonna get it backed.
Post Shenmue 3, I was like 90% sure it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, and like Yu Suzuki's been interviewed again and stuff, I'm now like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's talking as if he's gonna make it.
Right.
And I know he always did for Shenmue 3, but he was a bit different about it. It was like, well, if I can get the funding and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he's literally done interviews where he's like, oh, well, we plan to add throw moves into Shenmue 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so I think something and also an entire section was cut out of Shenmue 3.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if they just threw that into Shenmue 4. Wouldn't surprise me if Deep Silver had a deal with them that, okay, we'll fund this, but you got to spread it over 2 games so we can make twice the money. You know.
Right.
That wouldn't surprise me. It just depends how long it takes, because it weren't until about 2006 we all got suspicious where Shenmue 3 was in the first place.
Right, exactly. And, like, I mean, once again, I think Yu Suzuki's a great dude, and I hope he lives a long, healthy life, but, like, the dude's getting old.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he's also said that it was Cedric, who was the producer, had said that they need to make 2 more games.
Exactly, to get...
This one took him 4 years.
Right, like... I wish him the best, but I don't know if he's got that much energy in him to keep doing this crap.
I mean, realistically, like, it's going to take another 10 years.
At this rate, yeah.
For 2 more games. Like, because nothing's been announced yet, and it's been a year. Even if something got announced next summer, I bet you it's not going to be 2 years until we even get our first release date that inevitably gets delayed.
Right, and even that, it's like, is it just going to be another thing where we get, like, 10 minutes of story, or like, yeah, I'm not hopeful. The only thing I could realistically see happening is, like, if he were to, once again, almost be like a producer in terms of, like, guiding stories type of stuff, and then just leave literally everything else to another team.
He needs people in the room with him that know more than him.
Right, exactly.
And he needs to know that they know more than him.
Right, because even if they got the funding, if it's just more of this stuff, it's going to be the same old crap. So
yeah, and then there becomes the point where you end up with more bad games than good.
Right, exactly, and then it just dilutes the series even more, and then
Sega Man just asked, do you have a link to where Sega asked Deep Silver to help with the game? No, because we were told that by someone in the know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that conversation.
Briefly, yeah. I mean, a little bit, yeah.
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 We've heard a few things about the development of the game and stuff like that, because we were part of the Shenmue Dojo forums for so long and know some people.
Yeah.
Sega pretty much publicly really distanced themselves from the game, but trust me, you don't give away your IP for nothing. They make money.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Imagine being the exec for Sega and there's they're doing their financial reports and they go, well, we own that Shenmue game. Why didn't we get any money off it?
Right.
The CEO who's going to get any apple from the board members.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just. People like to think, oh, they just gave it to Yu Suzuki.
It's like, no, that's
they
not.
didn't.
Yeah, that's not how. Right, that's not how business works. You know, just you're not.
No.
It's not a charity.
No.
So yeah, so once again, like if like like we said with the anime, like when it comes out, am I gonna watch it? In some manner, whether or not I pay for it or not, probably. I'll probably check it out.
You're the reason Shenmue 4 won't happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just a piece of shit pirate, I guess.
You're a COD fanboy.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's it. Well, both a pirate and a COD fanboy, so I get it. But then Shenmue 4, like once again, like we were saying earlier, out of morbid curiosity, I feel like I have an obligation to play it. Am I gonna back it in anything close to what I did Shenmue 3? Hell no, not at all. Am I even gonna?
They're getting $60 out of me.
Right, exactly. Right.
I'll buy it when it comes out, even if they do a Kickstarter. If they did like I know, like I said earlier, I don't do Kickstarters, but if they did like a PayPal type thing,
right,
I'd probably pay for like a digital or box copy or something.
Right, right.
But I'm not going for extras and stuff. Like
Oh
that.
yeah, hell no. Yeah, that's
especially since I haven't got most of mine still.
Right. Well, yeah, like I told you, I finally got my last Kickstarter item the other day, which was the capsule toys, which actually were pretty well made. I actually
We've got more to come. There's like an art book or something.
Oh wait, shit. Is there? Maybe I forgot.
Yeah.
See, like that's how long it's been. It's like I can't even remember what the hell I've backed anymore. I should probably give them my new address now that I'm moving.
Well, this sort of sums up how people feel about this stuff, right? People are like, I got the T-shirt,
right?
Which might I add, I got the Kickstarter shirt despite the fact that I was a slacker backer. So that shows how well that organised.
Right.
So I got that. When did we get those? Like April?
Something
May?
like that, I think so. Yeah.
And I brought it, and my wife was like, "What's that package?" And I was like, "Oh, because I bought Shenmue 3 early and paid extra money, I got stuff."
Mm-hmm.
She went, "Didn't that game come out ages ago?"
Yes,
and
it
I was
did.
like, "Yeah, I mean, it's how it works." Just like, but you know what I mean? Just your average person doesn't understand.
Right.
Like, it's okay for things like that to turn up late, and everyone thinks we should just be happy about it. That we got anything.
Right. It's that what's the right word? Not entitlement, I guess, but it's like it's like just be happy you got.
It's not entitlement. It's something you paid for.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right. But the community was like, just be happy you got anything at all, and it's like, no, I literally paid for this. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Here's the thing I don't understand about Kickstarters in general, and I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Why do the rewards always come so late? Me and you could figure out how to print 1,000 T-shirts and send them out.
There's literally websites that do it for you.
Right, but we could figure that out. We couldn't figure out how to make a game.
Right.
The game comes out first. The game should not be the hard part.
Right.
But also, wouldn't that be great advertising? All over Twitter. Just got my T-shirt for Shenmue 3. Can't wait for it in 3 months.
I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be better to get it out early. Like,
right, just keep building hype. Like, get people excited. Oh, I'm getting all these cool goods and stuff like that. And, yeah. Once
a month in the last 6 months, like, oh, I've got the capsule toys or like whatever. Oh, and it came with a code so I can get them in the game as well. You know. I don't know. People don't seem to get that stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to your point, it's the marketing, it's the management. It's like it just seems disjointed. People didn't know what the hell they were doing, and just kind of threw stuff. And I think for some of the truly hardcore fans, they probably can forgive it. But even for some of the regular fans, in addition to all the normal people who aren't fans, they're like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be over a year until everyone gets everything.
Yeah.
And I stopped caring about Shenmue 3 about an hour after I played it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's...
I mean, like, I don't think I could, like, I don't really want the stuff. I was waiting for it all to come, and then I'll just put it all on eBay or something, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I more gave the money for the development.
Right.
I weren't that infused, but I should get something that I paid for. But even putting it on eBay now, I don't think I'd get any money because no one cares anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see Authentic Maniac talking about how the Kickstarter. Yeah, I mean, at the and that's the thing I think we have to have people understand is just because we have this opinion doesn't mean others can't, obviously. So, like, if you're happy with just not getting the stuff, then that's totally fine. And obviously, when I got the stuff, it's not like, oh my god, my life is complete now. Like, yeah, it's cool that I got it. If none of the stuff came in, it's not going to affect my life either way as well. I mean, yep, I played the game, to your point.
I mean, you're $500 worse off.
Right, and that was 5 years ago. I'm in a much better place now than I was then. It doesn't really affect me, but what it does affect, to what we just said a second ago, is the overall, like, it goes to show how mismanaged things were, which to me, moving forward, gives me very little confidence that they know what to do with anything.
Well, when I said from the beginning about the trailers and things like that, like, this isn't good, they need to fix the way they're marketing this, and everyone started having a go at me saying I'm a hater.
Mm-hmm. And
I said, no, I'm not a hater. I want Shenmue 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I want them to do this right, so it's successful, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, if you say one bad thing, you hate everything.
Right.
And you should shut up and go play COD instead. Like, I really, really wanted this to do well. I wanted it to come out. I wanted Yu Suzuki to finish Shenmue, and then I wanted him to be able to go and do other things. Because I think that's the biggest shame. That guy sat around in offices for 15 years doing nothing.
Right, exactly. Like, it seems like he could have been much more involved with things. At the very least, being an idea man and saying, hey, why don't we try this or that? And then it seems like he got, once again, either pushed into a corner, whether it was himself or forced by others or what exactly happened. But it's weird. And you're saying... Yeah, you're worried about the next game, don't want it to be the same. Yeah, that's the whole point, is like, I want the next game to live up to what it can. And if the team, once again, just to kind of reiterate, like, if they're willing to accept constructive criticism and maybe get people to play test it that aren't dedicated hardcore fans, then I think that's a great idea, and people could...
Honestly, like, they would never do this.
Oh, of course not.
it would be beyond stupid, but they should go to, like, the YouTubers like Super Eye Patch Wolf,
right,
and be like, look, we're making this. Can you come in and just play test it?
Right.
And then just talk to him for an hour or two afterwards. And, like, I don't like the whole, you know, games made by committee and, like, the testing and stuff. But, like, that game, Shenmue 3 did not get received well.
Right, like...
At the end of the day, no matter how much they inflate the user score and... Like, you had people on the Dojo forums complaining that reviewers clearly didn't play it before they reviewed it, although they probably did.
Yeah.
And then the same day it came out, giving it a 10 on Metacritic. Okay, who didn't really play it?
Right, yeah, seriously. Yeah, we're being a little naive here.
Okay, right. But just talk to these people, figure out what it is, and, like, because at the end of the day, the people like Super Eye Patch Wolf, like me and you, we really want it to be good. We're not a critic who's sitting there. We're fans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We want it to be good. And pretty much everything I've said, a criticism, I've come back with, they should just do it like this instead. It's not like, well, this is stupid, this is... You know,
Right.
Why haven't they looked at other games? I'm not saying I want the game to be The Witcher, but maybe it wouldn't hurt the Yu Suzuki to sit down and play it for an hour or two.
Yeah, to understand. Like, you have to understand what is going on. And to your point, don't copy it. Don't bend to the whim of everyone. But yeah, you have to understand what expectations are. I mean, that's literally like how things evolve and continue to be great. And this outright refusal to just accept reality is such a detriment. It's really weird.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the Kickstarter campaign, they showed they were willing to listen. Like, as I said, I was the one who suggested he did a Reddit AMA first, and I kept banging on about it, and they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested they do a Twitch stream interview. They did it, although they messed it up. I was the one who suggested they do the capsule toys as rewards, like in the game.
Sure.
I think they messed that up as well.
Yeah, a lot of implementation didn't exactly go great.
Yeah, like they were willing to listen, and then it was people were like, no, stop saying this isn't perfect.
How dare
stop
you?
it. And then suddenly they had nothing to go to. Like, we also know as well, like, even for the HD remasters, they were talking to the heads of the communities.
Yeah.
Who were deleting and banning any negativity about it or criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
then what happens is the game comes out and they're buggy, and then everyone gets angry that people think it's buggy or they're not as impressed with it.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, actually, I forgot to mention as well, really quick, is the other month that fan documentary came out as well. Well, in a rough state, I guess I'll say. Did you end up watching that or no?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And so, and granted, what I'm about to say could be said about a lot of documentaries, but it was clear that it obviously only talked about the positives of the history of Shenmue, which, once again, I get it. Like, you don't want to just insult someone to their face, but, like, I think the reason why that stuck out to me is because literally the week before, I watched the documentary about the Tony Hawk games and with Tony Hawk, and in that documentary, they very clearly mentioned, like, look, we had some missteps in the series, and they sucked. Like, they did not answer to what people were kind of hoping for, and they talked about it, which I thought was like, damn, that's refreshing to hear that they would do that. And then like I said, watched the Shenmue one, and I'm glad they talked about the positives, but then, yeah, they glossed over the fact of, like, Shenmue Online or Shenmue Guy or City, whatever, or the fact that, like, Shenmue 3 just basically isn't mentioned at all in it, which, I don't know, it just stuck out to me, I guess.
Well, we don't really know much about how people like Sega really feel about Shenmue 2. Like, the game came out, and then there was nothing. There was no interviews like, oh, it was a big failure. And
Right.
stuff like that. That's just how people have interpreted it over the years. Like, I want to know, like, what the feeling was in the company after that game came out, and, like, why didn't Shenmue 3 get made?
Sure.
Like, straight away after. Why? Documentaries like that are weird to me. It was very well made. I'm not having a go at them, but it's like, I feel like you're giving the information to people that already have that information.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And you're not giving information to people who don't. That documentary was not made for people who wonder what Shenmue is. It was made for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're just telling them stories they've already read about online.
Right, and I mean, I guess to their credit or to their benefit, whatever, I mean, that is kind of how they marketed it a little bit too. So, like, yeah, I'm definitely not knocking them for it. I thought it was great, like, and I know it's not the final cut or whatever, and they still need to kind of truly release it. But it was just funny to see that, I guess. But, yeah, like, at the end of the day, I guess to sum it up, like, the first two games will always be some of my favorites, whether it's nostalgia or otherwise. Like, I still will always remember them, and, like, I will still recommend them. Shenmue 3, I will literally never recommend to anyone ever. There's just no reason to.
Well, here's the thing, is like, every time I did play Shenmue 2, and you had that ending, before Shenmue 3 was announced, it was always depressing.
Right.
Like, that last, like, section where you're talking to Shenmue as you're walking to Old Spyro Village, you get excited each time about getting there. And then you get disappointed that it ends.
Mm-hmm.
If Shenmue 4 never came out, I don't think I would mind at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lose sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Feels like
It's
we've like
so-
come to terms with like someone dying.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like if it, I mean, we were part of the Shenmue community for 15 years roughly,
Right.
and it's quite depressing to now say, you know what, I don't really care.
Right. Yeah.
If it never comes out, so be it.
Yeah. Just it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, but it's not even like I always wanted to know like how the story ends and stuff. I don't really care that much anymore because I'm worried about how they're going to tell it.
Right, because like even though he said he doesn't want to like put it into a manga or anime or whatever, it's almost seeming like it's gonna have to go that way at some point. And even if it does, yeah, like do I really want to know at this point? Is it better just to be left in mystery?
Well, I enjoyed The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred if the game didn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
because the way the first one ends, open-ended, granted it's different. Shenmue 2 was set up for you to find out the ending.
Right.
But like, there was something special about not knowing what that next part was.
Yeah, the intention was. Yeah, like.
The intention with that was to leave it open-ended.
Right,
and not
exactly,
answer
yeah.
those questions. Shenmue it was, but now with Shenmue 3, they're like, oh, what happens next? Then I'm just like, I don't know. Don't really care.
Yeah.
Between 2002 and 2015, me and you were part of a website where nearly every week there was fan theories, there were people going through the old videos where you could like see a frame of a script or...
Right, it was so dissective of like every aspect, which like made it fun. Like that played into why it was such an interesting, not just the fan community, but just the games. Like, oh, did they leave these little clues in like a fucking cookie jar in the right corner or something? And it's like, no, it's just people doing.
We know he's going to go to this village. Like when? Or like what's going to happen there?
Right.
You know, now, do you care?
Like here it is.
Like, but do you care? That's the thing. It's just like, oh. Like we even saw the Saturn footage and it looked epic. The stuff that wasn't included in the first two games. I can't imagine them doing anything epic.
Right. I don't know if it's, even if they do make Shenmue 4, like, is it a matter of, do they, yeah, like we were saying earlier, I don't think throwing more resources is really going to help.
No.
It's, I guess, more dedicated resources and a focused story. But to your point, even if they did that, it doesn't matter anymore. And yeah, it's coming back to that morbid curiosity again of like, yeah, I'll probably play it, but am I ever going to be as excited as maybe they're hoping I would be? And I already know the answer is no. Like, just, it's not.
No, I can tell you this. I'll buy it. I'll play it day one if Shenmue 4 comes out.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like we're in a Discord group with like 30 people who are all part of the Shenmue forums. Do you see it the day before Shenmue 4 comes out? Everyone being hyped.
No.
No, but that's it, isn't it? We are a group of people that met on a Shenmue forum. We're all hyped for Shenmue 3 for the most part. And now, if Shenmue 4 come out, it would just be another game we talk about.
Right, for like a week.
Like, more people seem excited for Cyberpunk.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's a good indication, is the amount of times we've actually talked about Shenmue is like a couple, like very rarely. Which,
yeah.
I mean, harkens back to the whole reason that we talked on the forum, is like, we talked about other shit and we're a bunch of cynical assholes, which was hilarious and we had a good time. So, like, I'm not surprised by that fact. But yeah, to your point of like, if we're not excited for it, how does anyone expect anyone else in the general audience to enjoy it?
Yeah, and I think one thing that has been proven by how well Shenmue 3 done, like people are always like, the sales aren't out. You don't know. It could have sold. Look, like the game hasn't set the world alight. Otherwise, we'd be hearing about it.
Right.
Okay, like it came out. Maybe I don't think it even made its money.
I can't
I think
imagine
if
it did.
Shenmue 4, I think if Shenmue 4 comes out, it's to try and recoup some of that money because they're reusing some of the assets and some of it was built towards that.
Right? Are you?
Because you just got to break it down. The game, Yu Suzuki said $20 million. Divide that by 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many copies it is if they get 100%, which they don't because they have 4 or 5 investors.
Right, exactly. And then, as South is saying, you can find the game for $10 right now.
Yeah, the game was selling for like $40 2 weeks before it came out, so it weren't even making $60. And also, the majority of the sales, well, I don't know the majority, but like a lot of the sales are also on Kickstarter, which is money you make before the game's even out.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously they spent a lot of that to
through that.
Right, that, and of course they had to make all the Kickstarter rewards and stuff like that. So yeah, they spent a lot of money. So like, I don't know. I guess Shenmue 3. It's really weird actually when I think about it. I feel like Shenmue 2 and 3 almost like bookend my adult life. Like obviously not I'm not dying. Like my complete adult life, but like my.
We'll see.
Yeah, not yet at least. We'll see if someone attacks me from the Shenmue Dojo forum. But it's weird. It's almost like Shenmue 2 was at a time, like I said, where it was very formative years, very like important growing up, and like going to understand what I'm gonna do in my life moving forward. And then like Shenmue 3 is the other bookend of like my childhood has been ruined. Of like, and not obvious, I'm exaggerating, of course, but like it's like the embodiment of something you loved from your childhood coming back again and being a hollow shell of what it used to be, and knowing, like questioning, did you ever like it in the first place again? And it's this weird emotional like journey that I would just kind of wasn't expecting.
I mean, we're also a bit of a generation where everything comes back.
Right.
And I don't know, more times than not, it ends up disappointing us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's rare exception. Like I thought the new season of Twin Peaks was the best season of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I love that. But then like Star Wars, I like 2 out of 3 of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the other end, like Shenmue, which I just didn't like Shenmue 3 at all.
Yeah, like X-Files came back for a little bit, which X-Files is like in my top 3 favorite shows of all time, but then they came back with the 2 mini-seasons, and it was like, this is okay, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think as a generation, we're just getting used to things coming back and like not caring anymore. Because like when they announced like certain things were coming back, at first it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And now, like, I don't know what's saying. Like, if Firefly came back because everything's coming back, like that wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like nothing surprises me at this point. I mean, there's a Netflix series about the nurse from.
Oh my God.
The Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, okay. So I saw the trailer for that the other day because One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is definitely one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
Great, yeah.
And I saw the trailer, and because I was like, well, it's Halloween, I'm looking for horror, what's going on? And I saw the trailer, and I'm like, why does this look familiar? And then I read, like, oh, this is about the nurse from that movie. But the weirdest thing was they keep marketing it like she's this ultimate horror villain that, like, is, like, on par with, like, Freddy and Jason. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She was just the nurse in
right.
the film that was mean to the patient.
Right, like, what is...
But would it surprise you if it's like Amazon Prime they commissioned a series based on the piano player from Casablanca?
Right. You have to know his tragic backstory.
Yeah. What happened? Why did he end up in that bar? That's the question we've all been asking for years. Donald Glover's gonna play.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the
do the music.
Right, well, that's the perfect example of, like, Solo for the Star Wars movie. They kept saying, like, oh, you get to find out all these answers about Han Solo that literally
That no one asked.
nobody gave a fuck about. Like, why, who wanted this? Like, and to be honest, it wasn't, like, the movie was okay. Like, I didn't have a problem
Yeah,
with
I
it,
enjoyed it.
but, like, nobody wanted this. Like, what is this?
Well, I think the telling thing is with stuff like that is people watch it and even if they enjoy it, they don't talk about it a month later.
Right. It's just shitting stuff out, capitalizing on, I guess, nostalgia, and it's actually funny. Like, now going on another tangent with, like, I enjoy seeing the Marvel movies and, like, I have a good time watching them, but, like, I understand where, to an extent, where, like, Scorsese is saying, like, this isn't really cinema. Like, it's
Oh, like it's that whole internet context thing again. Is like everyone's got to be angry at him.
right, exactly.
I love the Marvel movies. I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying.
Yeah, it just becomes into a money machine instead of about the, like, artistic integrity, which, like, there's two sides to every story when it comes to that. But, like, I do get what he's saying.
Yeah, I get what he means. I think people took him a little too literally.
Right.
Like, but what we're talking about, like, a month later, no one cares.
Oh, exactly. Like, that's already
The
ancient
day-
history.
The day Shenmue 3 came out, no one cared.
Right.
And sure, if you went on like the Shenmue Dojo forums, it was like, oh my god, it's like Taylor Swift just walked in the room naked. Everyone was so excited.
Right, the second coming of
Like,
Jesus. Like,
you know, like, but where outside of that place did anyone care?
yeah, no one. Like,
I
yeah.
went into a GameStop and a Target because I was waiting for my wife, because at the time she had a bad foot and she couldn't drive, so I had to drive her to her class.
Mhm.
And I had like 2 or 3 hours to kill. So I just wandered around when you could do that.
In the pre-times.
Yeah, before Tom Hanks disease. And I just went into the GameStop and I went in the Target and I always just like look at the video game sections.
Right.
This was the week Shenmue 3 came out. It was not on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't even a blank spot for it, where people had obviously bought it and maybe they had 1 or 2 copies that
Right.
had gone. It just wasn't there. There weren't a barcode for it. Nothing. No one cared.
Yep.
And that's the depressing part. People went from 4 years. They went from caring to not caring.
Yeah. And once again, and coming back to the comment earlier, is like, you could tell, like, some care went into this game, right? And it is a shame that it just got completely overshadowed by everything else.
As much grief as we gave you, Suzuki, I think you'll agree with me. He's a guy who cares deeply.
Right, exactly.
I don't think he's the messiah people make him out to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a talented individual.
Right.
I don't think he is the next best thing.
Right. I mean, he had his heyday, you know, and, like, he definitely, in whether or not the magnitude of his importance, I guess, could be certainly discussed, but he definitely had an impact, which I think is hard to ignore. But it's one of those things where, like, it's kind of past his prime a little bit, and you could certainly keep trying to relive those days, and he did try, but unfortunately he kind of failed.
In the years between Shenmue 2 and Shenmue 3, I remember an interview, it was after he had left Sega, and he talks about how it was only him and his daughter worked at EaseNet, the company he now owns.
Yeah.
And he used to take him an hour to get into the office and an hour to get home each day.
Mm-hmm.
And he just used to go there every day and just sit there and write game ideas. And that sounds like, I think some people thought that was awesome, like, oh my god, he's just coming up with ideas like that. I just found it really depressing.
Right, it sounds like a diary of a madman.
Like, all he's doing is just sitting there And I think it was like Polygon or someone who interviewed him about this, and they were interviewing him in the office, and he was like, oh, "I've got this idea. It's like Afterburner, where you sit in an office chair with a gyro in your phone, and if you're in an office chair, you can spin around, do full 360 and things like that."
Mm-hmm.
But that's a guy who hasn't made a game for 15 years, sitting in an office on his own, talking to a guy who's interviewing him about why no one employs him anymore.
God, it is depressing. Yeah.
It is really depressing, because I think I can imagine, say, like a Microsoft or a Sony or someone were like, you know what, we're going to give them a little team of like 20, 30 people. Just make your weird little ideas over here.
Right.
I think he can make some really good stuff.
Sure.
You know, but it's sad what happened. That when you do look at his Wikipedia page, there's 15 years just missing.
It's just a black hole.
Well, like Guns N' Roses is my favourite band.
Mm-hmm.
And for 14 years they didn't release an album.
Right.
And that was when they were in like their 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be depressing when you look back once they pass away. And they could have made 15 years worth of music, and they didn't.
And then Chinese Democracy came out, and that was an interesting album.
Hey, I actually loved that album.
I actually, to be honest, I thought it was okay too. It was just, it was just interesting. Like, and yeah, not in a bad sense. It was just interesting. Like, I kind of wasn't.
That was.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Axl Rose and Yu Suzuki aren't that different, to be fair, because Chinese Democracy came out in 2008. And all everyone said about it when it came out is it sounds 10 years too late.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Because when he started making the album, he was talking about his influences were things like Nine Inch Nails and Nirvana, which in 2008, the lead singer had been dead for 10 years.
Right.
You know, like, he even got the guitarist from Nine Inch Nails to play on Chinese Democracy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's the same thing with Shenmue 3. It just feels like something that they started a long time ago. Like, I think they started on Shenmue 3 back in the early 2000s.
To some extent, yeah, probably.
I mean, there's Saturn footage of it and stuff.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me if they looked at the stuff that was being used, that they'd already worked on when they started the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that would maybe explain some of the older feeling of it, because he did also say that, like, when he started it, Sega were letting him use all the old assets and
Right.
have access to everything Shenmue related.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It's just depressing. Oh, God.
Now, authentic maniac
Mm-hmm.
said, I feel bad for you.
Yeah, I
We all
mean,
do.
yeah, I mean, it's certainly not our intention to be to shit on him or anything like that, because like we've said 100 times, like, definitely have respect for him, but it's just an example of what happens when, like, you kind of live in your own head, don't take the criticism, and then you kind of just expect everything's just going to be okay without, like, putting in that extra effort, I guess. And it's I don't know, I guess I'll use it as a warning sign almost for other people. And I almost feel like Yu Suzuki would be good as, like, a mentor, or as, like, some sort of just like a coach almost, of like, here's how I was able to do innovative things. Now you take that mentality or concept and do it for what you want to do, but don't literally do what I'm doing, you know.
I mean, he was around in the time when, like, 3D games were being made for the first time, and we said before, like, he was the guy who looked at it and went, how can I change this, or how can I do that? It wasn't so much about the game, it was more
Right.
what can I do in this office to make this work? You know, how can I revolutionize the arcade machine?
Yeah, and yeah, I guess maybe lightning doesn't strike twice, I suppose.
Well, like, you say like you'd have him as a mentor or something. Like, but the guy doesn't play games. Like, if I was making a game, I wouldn't ask him. I wouldn't be calling him to come and give me his input.
Right, and I guess that's maybe a clarification. Maybe not so much advice on games, but advice on like how to maybe think outside the box a little bit, or how to approach things differently. Yeah, as far as game advice goes, he'd be the last person I would ask for that.
I mean, also as well, like, there's not much innovation just on the technical level of video games as much as there was back then.
Absolutely, yeah.
The jump from 2D to 3D, like arcades to home consoles and stuff, was just something that is like games consoles have effectively become PCs now.
Well, right, it's just diminishing returns at this point.
They're pretty much all the same for the most part, outside of maybe that one loads a little faster, but that one can put out a better resolution.
Right.
No one's. Maybe Nintendo is the only one who's doing weird stuff like that, like the olden days. Like, you look at the Wiimote, and I don't think the Wiimote would have happened if it weren't for Yu Suzuki, because video games were buttons and a controller.
Right.
He's the one who looked at arcade machines and said, let's see how else we can play games.
Yeah.
And then that's probably why you got things like DDR.
Right. Yeah, it's not literally just a controller with two buttons. It's like, think about it like an experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I guess on that depressing note, to like sum it up again, like, I think Shenmue 1 and 2 will always have its place in history, and obviously for a set core of fans who will always enjoy it. Shenmue 3 is just a weird, like, living embodiment of what happens when things are past its prime and just brought back from the dead, so to speak. And then, yeah, I guess Shenmue 4, like, I guess I hope it exists and will come out one day, but I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, I think, at that point.
And it's also, Shenmue 3 is a tale of the internet does not represent the world. What you see in the comment sections and your bubble does not represent the whole world. Because apparently everyone loved Shenmue 1 and 2 and wanted Shenmue 3. And that wasn't the case. I've said to you before, like, if the internet reflected how the world actually was, like, the Call of Duty would be the worst selling game every year. But it's not.
Right.
Everyone online hates it, you know?
Right. It's...
Donald Trump wouldn't be president right now. Like, but he is.
Right. Like, it's this very insular, like, very... I hate to use this word, but, like, incestual a little bit of, like, people just constantly bouncing off of each other without talking to others outside their bubble. Like, and even if you like, I mean, shit, you and me and some of the others we talk to, we'll argue about dumb bullshit all the time that we don't agree on. It doesn't mean I want to come over and fucking stab you. It just means, yeah, we have different viewpoints, but that doesn't, that's it. Like, it's cool. It's okay.
Yeah, but you don't know my view on a pineapple on pizza.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Mother band.
Just end the stream there.
Yeah, and done.
Tear the cable out of the wall.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I guess, on a related note, is to not, without going too in depth, I guess, not to dedicate your entire life to something that is something that...
Not to be too precise.
Right, like, don't, like...
I know who you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously have hobbies. We have hobbies of video games and movies and shit, and it's healthy to have hobbies, but to literally dedicate your entire life to such a narrowly specific hobby that, like, will show no... I mean, granted, unless you have a good life where you can afford something like that, then more power to you. But if not, like, a reality check every once in a while is probably needed.
Yeah. For the people, I'll just say it, because for the people in the chat that don't know, like, the history and stuff, we know people that literally spent more money than they should have on kickstarting this and made it their life, which wasn't healthy.
Right.
To the point they have breakdowns about it.
Right.
I'm not going to be one to tell you to spend your money, but if you're having to make sacrifices in your life for stuff that's a hobby,
Yeah.
maybe you should reconsider how you're spending things. Like, I'm buying a house. I'm not going to get a PlayStation 5.
Right.
It would be silly for me to buy it right now.
Right, exactly. And like I'm about to move like here in a couple weeks, and like there are so many effing like Blu-ray sets in video games and crap that I would love to get right now, but yeah, I'm not going to because yeah, I got to save for that shit. And around the time when Shenmue 3 was happening, there were so many people. Like I said, I felt honestly kind of bad with how much money I had spent on the Kickstarter, but granted, I also had a savings built up, and like I knew I had a job starting in a couple weeks, so I could kind of rationalize it and be okay with it. But there were people who absolutely had no business spending the amount of money they did on the Kickstarter when that happened, and it's ridiculous.
You shouldn't take out a loan.
Yeah, to put it specifically.
Let's put it that way. We know people who took out loans. Like, that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. So
You should be taking out loans for things like houses, cars, things you need.
right, or as South says, develop severe depression so you don't have to care about it. All right, that's fine. That's good
Whatever
advice.
works for you, man.
Yeah, man, whatever floats your boat, dude. Yeah, and so obviously when Shenmue 4, or if I should say Shenmue 4 happens, and if they do another Kickstarter, I'm just afraid. Like, I don't know, I feel like people will have learned their lesson about the Shenmue 3 to be smarter about it, but I know that's not going to be the case. I know there's still going to be people who give way too much money on a game if it were to happen again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend $10,000 for a meal with a man who doesn't even speak the same language as me. Like,
Hypothetically.
yeah, hypothetically. Like, as I said, like my favorite band's Guns N' Roses. I wouldn't spend $10,000 to have a meal with Axl Rose. He'd probably turn up 2 hours late. but like, also that's just got. I've always found things like that weird. It's just me. Like, I've never wanted to meet people in that kind of sense.
Well, it's like idol worship or like or celebrity worship where it gets like unhealthy. And like I mentioned before, like I said, I'm a Star Trek fan, and a couple years ago I went to a Star Trek convention. It was the first one I'd ever gone to, and I will say I had a good time, and especially like there was panels with the actors and stuff which were fun, and I got a couple pictures with some of the actors. But yeah, to be honest, it was kind of weird, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this again because and not because I had a bad experience. They were amazing people, like really great, super nice. I will say William Shatner looked like he was on his last leg, but that's that's a different story. But
It's looked like that for about 40 years.
Oh, right, exactly. But it was a weird experience of like meeting your idols, and it's like I don't know if I want to do this again. And yeah,
I remember I'm a big football or soccer, if you guys call it, fan, and I was shopping once with a girl I was seeing at the time.
Yeah.
There was one of the Millwall players, team I support. I mean, I went to every game for like 15 years, like season ticket holder.
Right.
And I was like, oh well, like that's John Marquis, who was a player for us at the time. She's like, who? And I explained. She's like, go over and ask if you can get a photo. And I was like, no. I was like,
I can't.
I was like, no. That's like, it wasn't even like I was nervous to do it. I just felt like it'd be weird to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I just didn't want to bother him as well. Like I sat behind Brian May at a concert once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sat in front of me, and it was just like it took him half an hour to get to his seat.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're just mobbing him, right?
Right.
And I didn't even say hello to the guy, even though I love Queen
Right.
and stuff. It's just like it must be horrible, like to just have that. And I know Yu Suzuki's not got that issue, but like I just would feel weird about mobbing a guy or like worshipping him, as you said it.
Yeah, and like I want to say it was Keanu Reeves, maybe, or it was some celebrity where basically, like they are at that level. It was someone at the level of like they were super nice. They're always going to say yes to taking photos and stuff like that. But I like in an interview once, he like basically was like, you know, I'm never gonna say no to a fan because like that's kind of the reason why I'm here. But I think they said it would be nice if just for once someone were to come up to me and instead of saying, "Can I take a picture?" just saying like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
And it's like, God, that must. It's just depressing. And I think ever since I heard that, that's kind of when. Not that I like see celebrities or anything like that all the time, but like, if I were to the next time, I feel like I would. If I were to even talk to them to begin with, it would be that kind of approach, and not just be like, "Hey, you know, put me in this picture" or whatever like that.
Also, like some people are just not going to be that nice about it.
Well, that too.
I had a friend who saw back in England a comedian called Vic Reeves, who's very like big and well known in the UK. He was like very popular in the 90s, and he nodded at him in a shop as he walked past because he noticed it. He was like, oh, like nodded at him, and he rolled his eyes at my friend. Like, you know, it's not everyone's going to be that nice, and like hero worship is not helping.
Yeah,
and I think that really ties back into people's issue with criticism of the game.
Right.
Is they see that the person can do no wrong, and everyone can do wrong.
Well, and on top of that, because you're attacking their idol, it's kind of like you're attacking them personally, like because it's like that's their core, is that they're worshiping this person, and you feel like, oh, if you attack them, you're attacking my identity as well, and it's like, no, believe me. I mean, I could do that too for other reasons, but not for this specific reason.
Well, the one that always worried me was when before Shenmue 3 was announced, people were like, oh, if I ever win the lottery, I'll fund Shenmue 3. Be like, maybe buy your mum a house first.
Yes.
You know, like,
maybe like fund world hunger initiatives or something.
Yeah, like just imagine you're like, Mum, I've won the lottery, and she's like been busting her ass, put you through school, and like you've got a mortgage payment, she's been in debt, and you're like, what are you gonna do with all that money? Well, I gave it to a guy who ain't made a game in 15 years. They can finish that story. Remember that game you got me for Christmas? And she's like, oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, God, like I swear, like I know we've said this before too. I feel like we could make like a documentary just on the like, or not even a documentary, like a scientific research paper on like the mental stability and health of people in this community. Like it's just wacky of like the twists and turns I feel like we've witnessed.
Honestly, we came across quite a few characters in the Shenmue community. I said at the beginning I don't like Shenmue fans. They're weird.
Yeah.
They think that the game is Picasso and that anything that isn't is something a child drew.
Yeah.
And where they have this sort of superiority complex where because they play Shenmue they're better than most people.
Yeah, and it's so goofy.
And then you have the other side where it was people who just they enjoyed the games and they were really nice and chill people. And then the psychopaths.
Yeah, God, I don't know. Some people take things just like I said too personally, or and they just lose their minds, and yeah, exactly. It's.
I mean, we've literally witnessed probably about 5 people go crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the correct term to use in this day and age, but like that's literally what it was.
God. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, it's people who just got way too involved with something and like just can't face reality, and it's yeah.
I mean,
like
we even saw people who like weren't even the biggest Shenmue fans, but then just became obsessed with the community.
Right.
And lost their mind over that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. It's just like the thing, like I mentioned before. There's other, like around that early internet time, there were other forums and other like fandoms of things, and I know there were other, like there were there were Resident Evil forums, right? Or there were, I'm sure there were Mario forums or Sonic, clearly. but something about this community in particular just seemed so fucking weird and like out of whack.
It was one of those things that if you were in the inner circle, it was great. As I've said before, a very tight-knit group. Would do anything for each other, really help people. Were really friendly, and amazingly, for the majority of us, have stayed in touch over the years. I mean, there's still some people I've tried to find an old email address for them or something like that. I'm just not. They seem to have just dropped off the face of the earth, or they're just.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were even a few people that just weren't interested in joining like our Discord we have going now and stuff.
All right, we almost basically went on like a 7-month hunt for like email contacts for one person in particular to see if like even if they were alive.
Yeah. It was. Is that Woo? Was that one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the King was like, "I'm fine, leave me alone."
Yeah, like get the fuck out of here, like you fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
Oh god. So.
It brings out the strangeness of it. I'm sure it happens in other fan communities, but like, yes, I did invite Sailors. He was the first person to join South just asked if I invited Sailors.
Good.
He's like, if you look in the list, he's still technically there.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first one I spoke to, and the first one he joined our Discord group. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll come back once I beat Shenmue 3."
Never heard from.
Shenmue 3?
Never to be seen again.
Yeah. No, I've messaged him before.
Yeah.
He's one that always says like, "Oh, I'll pop in" or something like that, and he never does.
All right. Yeah, which is fine. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not expecting everyone to like messages every day and stuff. I know people got lives and not everyone wants to join it and stuff.
Right. But
there is some people. It's a shame that have like literally just disappeared off the face of the earth. But I also I do worry about some people, and like I know in the Shenmue community, some people hate me for not loving Shenmue 3.
Sure.
But I am genuinely worried about some of their mental health, and I have like kept track of them.
Yeah.
Like just because I'm worried about them.
Yeah.
Not in like a weird stalkery way, even. It's just like.
But right,
you know one guy.
Yeah.
You know one guy. Like I regularly like check in to make sure he's like not commit suicide.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not with him. It's just more like looking from afar, because I am like genuinely worried that guy will do something one day.
Right. Yes. I would agree as well, and I certainly hope he gets the help he needs. But once again, history has proven otherwise on that one. But yeah, it's just an interesting group of people, and I think that once again this comes back to why do I still like this game so many years after, like not 3, but like the originals, so many years after, and it's because it's not clouded. It's surrounded by all of the nonsense that went with it.
Yeah, like I can't play Shenmue 2 now without like laughing about Ryo's gun. Like like stupid, and like we just used to have like threads on the Shenmue Dojo forums about like how does he poop?
I need an in-depth analysis.
Yeah, and it just used to be like, oh, why do you think like he wins the fight so easy? They're not getting knocked out from his punches; it's from the smell. Yeah.
Clearly.
You know, just stupid. Like, I know like Shenmue's well known for people for like the forklift memes, sailor memes. For me, it's also like the dojo forums and stuff like that, from posting there so long. And a lot of it's not even about the games themselves, it was just general stuff.
Right. It was just, I think you said it again earlier, like right place, right time. It was the community around it, and then, which to some extent, yes, that's unfair to judge Shenmue 3 by that same metric, but once again, it's the same issue of like, even on its own, it's just not what it could have been.
Well, I think the Shenmue community reflects Shenmue 3, in that it doesn't know what its own faults are.
Right.
And it needs to look out rather than inward all the time.
Gotta look inward with Rio. Get real deep.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's true. It needs to look at other games, and the community needs to realise there are issues.
Get real class. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, we could continue talking for even longer about very specific stories, and maybe one day we'll have to do an episode of like best of old dojo stories. That might be a fun. I feel like it's telling old war stories or something of like, oh, remember that time.
The revolution.
Exactly.
Where we ousted an admin.
That'd be a great time, but yeah.
That's what's weird. It's like we were originally thousands of miles apart and still chatting all these years later.
Yeah, exactly, and that's I think that's why once again I'll always like have a good time with them, and it's fun, and because it's resulted in a lot more good than bad still. I think for me.
Up for debate.
Well, that's fair. It depends on maybe who you ask or in what you're referencing to in the community, but I guess in general, I would say I've had a good time, and it's just one of those things that will never be replicated, which I get it too. And I think a good chunk of us have like accepted that reality, and that's fine, and you can move on, that's life. But like obviously there's a fair amount of people who haven't, and it's
the reason I started the Tojo Dojo was because we all wanted to post on a forum like the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And the stupid thing was we arranged it in Discord, which people now find easier to use than a forum, so no one moved from Discord to the forum.
Right.
Because modern technology caught up with it.
Yes.
And that's it, it's right time, right place.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tojo Dojo now not just for the forum, which originally, as I said, is all I made it for.
Mm-hmm.
Which is still there if people want to sign up.
Yeah, sign up now.
Yeah, sign up. Sign up, come chat. If you like all these war stories, trust me, we can make some new ones. I mean, every owner of the last dojo forums went crazy. Who knows? Maybe I'll go crazy this time.
This is the cycle of madness. Now you'll actually experience it yourself.
I feel like I'm like Robert in Game of Thrones. I'll do the 20 years of peace, and then it will kick off again when the next Mad King comes along. I'll just get killed in a hunting accident.
Oh god. But yeah. Exactly. So it's the cycle of life keeps going. It's all good. Shenmue 3 Game of the Year every year, obviously. It's all good.
I'm still waiting for the Game of the Year edition with the DLC.
That'd be great. I'm assuming that's not going to happen.
No.
Ever.
I don't. Other than that one guy from IGN Japan that the dojo keeps saying is the best journalist ever, despite every journalist being a page through apparently.
Exactly. Oh my god. But yes, any other final thoughts on everything?
Play Shenmue 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a go. If you've never played it, I'm guessing if you're watching this, you at least like Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got a few people watching now that I'm assuming not all of them have played Shenmue, but Shenmue 1 and 2, you can buy it for like $15.
Right.
Worst thing that can happen is you don't enjoy it. I'm sure you spend more money on a game you don't enjoy before.
Right. Yeah, especially coming back to the point earlier of like, if you like seeing how things started, then highly recommend it. And even if you don't, like, it's once again, it is its own thing still, so definitely definitely recommend it. And then if you want to, if you're a sadomasochist, then play Shenmue 3.
I mean, I think also Shenmue 3 is saying that if you play the first two, you should play.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, just to see, because it is video game history at the end of the day.
It is. So yeah, Authentic Maniac. So gonna do the mods. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I can maybe say this again really quick. So if you play it on PC, definitely do the mods, which you can find on like Nexus Mods or something like that, and they do actually make it a lot better with some of the voices, some of the like the textures being updated, some cutscene fixes in terms of like widescreen and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's something else that they fixed as well. So definitely recommend for PC to do that if you can. And they're not hard to install. They're pretty self-explanatory. Also, South 420 guys, great. Thanks.
Should I end with one of my favorite dojo stories?
Sure, that'll be a good way to take us out on this lovely conversation. Go for it.
Okay, just because we talked about how people went a little weird and a little crazy on that place.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give some context to people that aren't from the dojo forums, we had a guy called Mittens, who I spoke about earlier, who said the trailer for Shenmue 3 looked bad. And the owner of the forum said, "What the fuck do you know? You've never done anything for this community. When have you ever done anything? Blah, blah, blah." So he then posted all the Facebook messages he'd sent to try and help that guy to get a job. And was like, "This is what I did for you."
Literally helped you out, yes.
And then the guy disappeared for 6 months rather than admit that he was just being a bit of an idiot.
Yep, and
then came back angrier and more authoritarian than ever.
And that's just the kind of place it was.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So, yes, maybe one day we'll do a more in-depth, maybe pull up different funny stories and see if there's anything.
Oh, you could get them up on the screen and everything. The forums are still there until the mods get angry with us again.
That's true. So maybe it's better we do document this before that happens.
Yeah, they're deleting things. It's like a punishment every time that we upset them. They take away one more thing.
Right. Yeah, because you can't do the chat anymore. You can't log in.
Can't check our old PMs anymore.
Right.
They removed our signatures because I advertised the Tojo Dojo on there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what I did too as well. Yeah, I posted it in the in our signatures or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Soon they'll just take away like numbers.
Right.
Just leave letters.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. And South, clearly you got some bans as well. We might have to save that for the next stream when we discuss those. But oh goodness.
I think South should actually come on audio, and if we ever talk about the dojo.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get a group call going, and we can definitely do that. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, doing these Discord audio calls are actually a lot easier than I thought it was as well, especially if you want to do a group call. So we could definitely work that out for sure. But yeah, so that's been, Jesus Christ, been talking for almost 4.5 hours. So yeah.
So now we're going to cut this into a YouTube video.
Yeah, just the highlights. But yeah, that's been that's been Shenmue, basically in a nutshell, 4.5 hour nutshell of start to finish, and Yu Suzuki, history, community. Hopefully people, for the few that tuned in, found it interesting. Well, it'll be up on YouTube as well, so maybe I'll have to repost it for others who want to see. But yeah, it's been fun. Walk down memory lane. It's been a blast.
Yeah, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you as well. All right, well, thanks everyone, and until Shenmue 4 comes out. Oh goodness, cool. Take it easy, guys.